As a child, Rui promises his aunt that he will become an adventurer after receiving a skill. Everyone gains a skill at 14. Years later, an adult Rui lies wounded on the ground. 5 years earlier, Rui attends the skill award ceremony with his friends. His friends receive powerful skills and promise to help others. Rui receives nothing. The elder is amazed that 3 children gain top-level skills. Rui's friends claim they care about him, then suddenly abandon him. Laughing, they drag Ryu by the hair and order him to leave. The apostle explains that gaining experience without a skill is pointless. Ryu is thrown outside and warned that attempting to level up may kill him, so he should choose another path. Ryuya feels his future is ruined because a skill is an orphan's only chance at a better life, though he still wishes his friend's happiness. He breaks down because he alone received nothing. Believing he will quickly die alone, the boy decides to gamble on gaining strength anyway. Ryuya begins leveling up seriously. He ignores the failures of everyone who tried before because he has nothing left to lose. After several days, Ryuya barely manages to kill one monster and realizes this path may kill him. Since death already seems inevitable, he continues. Deep in the forest, he encounters a blue dragon. Ryu believes he is finished until he hears a voice. The dragon says fate brought them together, leaving the boy stunned. It asks what he desires, and Ryuya answers despite thinking the question is absurd. He asks for enough power to fight without a skill. The dragon laughs but accepts. The dragon says Ryuya must seize that power himself and becomes his brutal trainer. 5 years later, the adult Rui finishes a break and checks his status at the dragon's request. His stats are enormous, but Rui still wants to train. The dragon explains that humans normally cannot exceed level 99. Its own maximum is 10 million, and it suggests Rui stop there. Ryuya thanks his teacher, who prepares to leave and gives him a farewell gift. The dragon tells him to act on his own. When asked if they will meet again, it says only if fate allows. Those 5 years were filled with near-death training. Goblins suddenly interrupt Ryu's memories. Ryu kills them easily with his bare fists. The training strengthened his body and removed much of his resentment. He resumes his original goal of becoming an adventurer. While traveling happily, a group offers to escort him through the dangerous area. Ryuya recognizes them as kidnappers. They admit it and threaten him into following. When Ryuya says he has no skill, one bandit claims they possess a device that can verify it. Ryuya kills him with one blow, shocking the others. The remaining bandits attack but are quickly defeated. One begs for mercy, but Ryuya refuses to release someone who would continue kidnapping people. Another man then appears. Ryuya assumes he is their leader, who boasts about possessing a power enhancement skill. Ryuya says such power should help others, but agrees to test the leader's strength. He lifts a massive piece of earth with one hand, terrifying the man. Ryuya throws it at him, then notices someone above. He climbs up and finds the slave trader, who kneels and claims the bandits were only his guards. The merchant offers Ryuya work, but Ryuya kills him. Inside the carriage, Ryuya finds a girl. He takes her to a clothing shop and lets her choose what she wants. The girl becomes nervous because Ryuya offers her complete freedom. She had begged to follow him and revealed that she had undergone a blessing ceremony. After receiving an extraordinary skill, her village began treating her differently, and slave traders eventually kidnapped her. Since she refuses to return home, Ryuya agrees to take her with him. He buys her proper clothes, and she promises to serve him in gratitude. After 5 years away, Ryuya finally returns to the city, which amazes the girl. At the guild, he warns her that people can be cruel because skills determine status. The guild master frightens the girl into hiding behind him, then praises Ryuya's composure. Ryuya explains that he has trained for years and requests adventurer registration. The girl says he rescued her, while the master reviews the requirements. Since possessing a skill is not mandatory, Ryuya is accepted. He reports killing the slave trader and his men, then hands over their documents. The master considers it an impressive pre-registration achievement. Ryu receives a guild card showing him as level 17, and proceeds to the ability test. Ryuya discovers the card cannot display levels above 99. After registration, the girl also asks to join. The master has no reason to refuse and asks whether Noam is ready to reveal her skill. Although exposing it may be difficult, Noam remains determined. Noam activates her ability, shocking the guild master. The master considers her skill extraordinarily valuable and views her as a golden opportunity. Noam says she only wants to stay with Ryuya, and he agrees to protect her. Other adventurers try to recruit Noam, but Ryuya refuses them. 40 minutes later, the guild master tells Ryu not to mind them and begins training the new recruits. The group quickly gathers medicinal herbs, shocking the master with their exceptional quality. She then leads them toward a restricted part of the plane and warns them to memorize everything because they will only enter once. The guild calls this forbidden territory the evil spirit zone. Evil spirits control half the area, and careless adventurers can easily die there. The master demonstrates the skill she has repeatedly used to save adventurers. A legion of monsters suddenly approaches. The master orders everyone to flee, but Ryuya remains and is swallowed. To the girl's shock, Ryuya kills the monster from inside with one blow. Suspecting he possesses a hidden skill, the master watches as Ryuya claims he could eliminate every monster on the plane. 35 minutes later, they reach a castle at the center. Noam explains that she followed because she refuses to leave him. Ryuya breaks into the throne room and asks the girl on the throne whether she commands the evil spirits. She introduces herself as one of the 18 higher demonic spirits who rule the world. Her name is the devil spirit Abinion. Ryuya demands that she leave, blaming her for the zone. Abinion claims the monsters merely gathered around her. She settled there because she liked it and says the weak must obey the strong. Ryuya asks whether she will obey him if he proves stronger. Abinion becomes furious and threatens to kill Ryu before noticing the other girls. She offers to spare them if they spread news of his death. Ryuya calls her kind and says he likes her. Embarrassed, she rejects his flattery, while Ryuya promises not to kill her if she surrenders completely. Anabian angrily lectures the group about the hierarchy of the world. She explains the maximum levels of humans, devils, devil spirits, and her own level. The girls believe defeating her is impossible, but Ryu attacks without concern. His technique begins erasing her body until he stops, leaving her pale with fear. Ryuya reveals his level, shocking everyone. Anabian kneels and surrenders, then asks whether he knows a giant snake. She explains that beyond the 3 supreme beings are snake dragons, calls him Your Majesty, and claims one has chosen him. With Abinion defeated, peace returns to the plane, and the girls praise Ryuya's overwhelming level. Ryuya still considers himself ordinary and says he will rely on people with excellent skills. Noam happily promises to help him. The spirit follows them after removing the barrier, and Ryuya warns her not to cause trouble. She decides to return to the city with them and says she must give Ryuya something. She suddenly kisses him, shocking the girls. Ryuya is surprised he can touch her despite her being a spirit. The kiss creates a spiritual connection, allowing him to see the girl's measurements. Anabian claims she merely shared a small part of her power, leaving Ryuya confused by her innocent expression. Back in the city, Dojidza confronts them and mocks Ryuya for having neither skill nor weapon. He demands revenge for his younger brother and declares himself the new master of the guild, with the guild master as his woman. Ryuya defeats him and drives the troublemakers out of the guild. The next day, the master assigns them a dungeon quest and explains that their situation has become dangerous. She thanks them for liberating the plane and defeating Dojidza's gang, then promotes Ryu. Their rapid rise will attract powerful enemies, and the guild may be unable to protect them. Ryuya realizes his strength could start a war and decides not to use it only for personal benefit. Later, the group reaches a dungeon to collect several materials. A guide initially refuses them entry because of their low rank, but accepts the master's recommendation letter. Inside, Ryuya tells Noam to remain close while the guide begins explaining the mission. The guide insists powerful skills are everything and stops them from touching the first material because it is a trap. She explains that the root is part of a monster, but Ryuya has already pulled it out. The guide is shocked because the root should have escaped and turns out to be extremely valuable. They continue to the second material, which Ryuya retrieves just as easily. The guide warns that the final material is far more dangerous. It is poisonous red sand that crumbles when exposed to air, but they find it quickly. Ryuya dives directly into the poisonous sand and emerges minutes later, completely unharmed. In the end, the guy got the sand core, and in the meantime, Noam brought him the antidote. The spirit says the core could melt, while the guide is shocked by the spirit's appearance. The guide realizes she underestimated the boy. A week later, the master introduces the boys to the head of the Artisans Guild. The head is shocked by the rare materials the boys have obtained. The master says the quest isn't over yet. Noam realizes the materials she's collected are needed for an X potion. Ryuya asks more about this potion and the master explains. The leader says that such a potion can be created by someone with high alchemy skills, but his guild doesn't have one. The chief also says that such a person is worth his weight in gold. Noam volunteers to create this potion. The girl talks about her skill and goes to prepare the potion. The leader is shocked that there was such a person in the Adventurers Guild, and a week later, the girl finishes. The leader asks Noam to join the Artisans Guild and offers her better conditions, but the girl refuses. Despite her refusal, the girl is willing to take orders if they arise. The boss says he has one more request. It turns out the king is expecting the boys and they arrive. King Leonard praises the girl's potions and says they will definitely save the country. The king wants to reward the boys and grants the girl the Order of the Green Spirit. Suddenly, the girl asks him to listen to her. Noam is credited with all of Ryu's accomplishments, but the guy himself denies everything, saying that he is simply the girl's guardian. In the end, the boys tell the king the whole story and the king asks the boy about the skill. Ryuya confesses and the king decides the boy is lying. Ryuya shows the guild map as proof, but the minister still thinks the guy is lying. Ultimately, the minister wants to fire the guy and Noam is also about to leave. The minister says they're doing this for Noam's sake. Why would someone so talented stand with such trash? The girl covers her ears, worried that she doesn't want to hear insults directed at her savior. A spirit appears and begins threatening to destroy the palace, frightening the king and minister. The minister immediately dispatches guards to attack the spirit. Ryuya tries to stop everyone and explains everything. Everyone is shocked by the spirit the boy tamed. The minister tells the king it's all a lie. Aniyan says she can see the boy's power and explains that Ryuya was a dragon's apprentice, mentioning his level. The king and minister are completely shocked while the girl praises herself. The king demands to call Lesledza and offers the boy to fight him, to which he agrees. A knight enters the hall and Ryuya begins looking up information about him. It turns out the knight is a woman. Ryuya says he has no skill and is simply increasing his powers. The knight thinks this is nonsense but still decides the guy is not so simple. She explains her skill and says it's easy to chop up a guy. Ryuya says it's fine and she can use her skill. The king wants to see the guy's strength, so if the girl doesn't hit him with all her might, he'll be disappointed. The girl begins to think the guy is insulting her. She ends up using the skill and attacks with all her might. Ryu grabs her sword with one hand and the blow seems to evaporate. The knights are shocked and the girl doesn't understand how the boy managed to withstand the blow. She says the guy could have made contact and won, but he says he can't hit a woman. The girl is surprised. The king stops them and says the boy has proven his strength. The spirit praises the boy and the king, meanwhile, has made a decision. The minister tries to dissuade the king, but he's already figured it out. Leonhardt asks the boy to go northeast and join the war. Their enemies are demons and the king asks the boy to save the kingdom, because it is the hero's duty to confront the threat. There are a huge number of demon species in the world. High-ranking demons are beyond the power of humans to defeat. Countless demons threaten humanity and only by uniting can they fight back. Ryuya will challenge the demons. All you need to win is a fist without skill but no less powerful. A few hours later, the guys arrived at the scene. There were corpses everywhere. Ryuya realizes the demon's progress isn't exactly rosy. Meanwhile, the knight asks about the potion supply, and the commander and her assistant hesitate. It turns out all the potions have already been used up. The knight decides to personally chop off the demon's hand, to which the spirit replies that he will easily regrow it. Noam asks everyone to disperse and takes out everything necessary for making potions. She also says that she is the master of alchemy. Hearing this, everyone begins to thank the girl. Ultimately, thanks to Noam, the wounded continue to be treated. The spirit says that Noam is brave and reminds her of someone, while Ryuya asks about the spirit's abilities. Anabian picks up the boy and flies off with him somewhere. It turns out she releases life force to speed up the soldier's regeneration. An hour later, the guys had succeeded and the crowd was thanking them. Lesledza removed his helmet, revealing his face. The spirit thought the girl was wearing a helmet because she looked so ugly, but it turned out she wasn't. The knight says she should show the boys due respect. From now on, the girl is the commander-in-chief. She says that all the soldiers will become her strength and that this will be their trump card in the war. The soldiers remind the girl that there may be consequences for her skill, but she doesn't care. She's a knight and can even give her life for the kingdom. The decision is still hers and she won't let everyone die. She asks the soldiers to hide in a safe place when the battle begins. Ryuya asks if Lesledzu can participate in the strategy, to which she replies that they've already saved many lives. He decides to go with her anyway. The guy decides to help the girl use the skill. Lesledzu asks if the guy can handle it, to which he jokes that it would be nice to give his life to save a beautiful girl. Ryuya reminds that the soldiers entrusted their lives to the girl's skill, because only the girl's skill will give them victory. The girl must play the leading role because the king himself asked for it. The demons are coming and the earth trembles with their stomping. It turns out there are a lot of demons. The chief demon says he raised an army while the humans were dying. Ryuya finds the demon's voice irritating. The demon's name is Benyon, and according to the spirit, he's just a viscount. The boy changes his target and tells the girl that they're attacking the leader. If you kill the demon, the army will leave. The girl starts to get nervous, and Ryuya says everything will be fine. As a result, the guys start to attack. The girl strikes with all her might. The demon is shocked by such a blow. The blow is so powerful that it causes an explosion. The soldiers praise Lesledzu. The impact of the attack is very strong, but fortunately the girl survives. The boy asks Noam to heal the knight. A few seconds later, Lesledzu is completely healed, and Ryuya tells her to prepare for the second strike. The girl says she can't use the skill that often, but the guy ignores her. Eventually, Lesledzu attacks again. The blows continue, and each time Noam heals the girl, after which she attacks again. The spirit says that she could have killed all the demons in one fell swoop, but Ryuya says that it was a human battle. The army had to rally and repel the demonic threat, and thanks to the girl's skill, it was possible. The demon doesn't understand what the skill was, and Ryuya asks if the demon is planning to flee. The demon decides to have some fun and is going to fight the guy. The demon thinks the guy is stupid and pathetic. He continues mumbling something, to which Ryuya replies that he's very talkative. The demon uses its power and attacks the boy. The knights realize the demon's power is deadly and rush to leave. The demon boasts of his power, to which the boy winks at him, and a white mist appears. The demon is shocked because his acid fog was simply blocked. The spirit says the demon is no stronger than her. The demon is shocked, not believing his eyes, but the girl says that she obeys the strong, and the demon himself will soon be convinced of this. The guy emerges from the fog as if nothing had happened and thanks the girl for her help. The demon can't believe his eyes, and Ryuya says he simply has good defense and high vitality. The demon asks what the guy is, to which he replies, human. Ryuya comes closer and says that he will have to kill the demon. He punches the demon in the face and crushes his head. The demon remains alive and says he'll kill the guy. Ryuya begins to hit the demon with his fists at such a speed that he does not have time to regenerate. The demon wonders if he will disappear forever like an ordinary person, slowly evaporating. In the end, Ryuya killed the demon and the spirit praised him. The boys return to the soldiers, who notice that the sky had become brighter. The guys tell me that they won and the soldiers are happy. Lesledzu asks to be released as she can now stand on her own 2 feet. R lets her go, asking her not to overdo it. The boys return to the kingdom victorious. Ryuya thinks the parade is too much, to which Lesledzu replies that it's nonsense. The king joyfully greets the children and soldiers. He asks them to tell him, even though he'll already have the report. In the end, Lesledzu tells him everything. The girl explains that she couldn't have done it without Ryu and asks for a reward. The king decides that they won thanks to everyone and decides to make everyone aristocrats. The minister isn't happy with this idea, but the king silences him. Ultimately, the king grants everyone aristocratic titles. The king asks Ryu if he'll agree to become an aristocrat, and the boy considers it. Suddenly, a hero appears. Lesledzu explains to Ryu in more detail about the hero, and the guy notices that the girl is not delighted with the hero. The hero ostentatiously says that he has arrived to save the kingdom. The minister applauds the boy, and the king asks why the kingdom needs to be saved. The hero says he'll stop the demons, but first they need to throw a feast in honor of his arrival. Ryuya remembers that the hero is his friend from childhood, and meanwhile he boasts about his strength. Ryuya starts calling for the leader, and he asks who Ryuya is. Finally, he recognizes his former friend. Ryuya explains to the king that they used to be friends with the hero, to which he replies that this was not the case. The hero begins to insult the guy and moves on to urgent business with the king. He explains that the church sent him, to which the king replies that he has sent requests for help more than once, which have been ignored. Lesledzu confirms the king's words, and the king calls the church a shop of greedy swindlers. The hero tries to justify his arrival, which angers the king. The king mentions donations, to which Liber replies that the king isn't the only one donating money to the church. The hero proposes to marry Princess Lesledza, which greatly angers the king. The king takes the hero's words as a threat, but he stands his ground, thinking that he is their only hope. The king refuses, saying that he would rather be at the mercy of demons. The king explains that the demons have already been subdued and the kingdom is saved. The hero, however, thought the parade was in honor of his arrival, causing the soldiers to laugh at him. Leonhardt demands that the hero leave, but he cannot believe that someone dealt with the demons. The hero is told that Ryu has sorted everything out, but he doesn't believe it. Suddenly, Noam hits the hero in the face, causing him to fly away. The girl demands the hero to shut up and says that everyone present personally saw how Ryuya handled everything. Liber begins to insult the girl for hitting him and says that he will finish her off. The spirit creates a fog, preventing the hero from passing and surprising him even more. Anabian throws the hero up and he flies away. Meanwhile, the king is angry with the minister. The minister, in a panic, bows and makes excuses. The king wants to speak with Ryu alone, but the girls follow him. The princess apologizes for insulting the hero. The king confirms the hero's words that Lesledza is the king's daughter and says that his daughter is special. The king claims the girl's mother is of low rank, preventing her from inheriting the throne. The king decides to knight his daughter, but the church suddenly appears. The church somehow learned that Lesledza is a princess and wanted to intervene in politics by marrying the hero to the princess. The king says he won't allow his daughter to be used as a political tool and wants Ryu to be his ally. The boys leave the palace and meet the hero. He says he wants to talk to the boy alone, and the girls let Ryu go. Liber says that he received a valuable skill and also says that he and the guys were separated. Liber thinks he's cool because he's become a hero. He asks Ryu to talk to the princess and says he's willing to accept her if she's ugly. Ryuya understands the hero's goal and asks why he treats people like objects. The hero replies that he's trying to give Ryu's empty life some meaning. He also says that he will take Noam and the spirit. Ryuya asks what the guy is saying, and he says that even Ryuya can be useful. He should be happy helping the hero. Ryuya understands that his friend has changed a lot in 5 years and now considers him rotten. Ryuya asks how he went from being a decent person to such a person. Liber realizes that Ryu has no skill and laughs at him, considering him a stupid idiot. He starts attacking the guy, telling him not to look down on him. Suddenly, the hero misses and doesn't understand what it was. Liber finds the guy cocky and thinks he has a powerful skill. Liber says that he has a universal skill, and Ryu's skill is just a joke. Ryuya looks at the hero's information and says he's not particularly interested in the boy's skill. The hero explains that he can steal other people's skills. Liber says that he will always be stronger than his opponent and says that the guy will be able to use the skill. The guy uses his skill, but nothing happens. The theft is complete and Liber prepares to attack the guy, but Ryu strikes first, causing the hero to fly away. The hero doesn't understand why the guy is still strong and thinks that his skill didn't work. The guy beats the hero again, and Liber doesn't understand where Ryu got such strength from. Ryuya breaks through the wall with one blow, leaving the hero in shock. The hero considers this impossible and says that some of the best skills have some kind of protection against theft. Liber decides to get this skill and says that he can sacrifice his skill by taking someone else's skill. He decides that he will take the guy's skill forever and become the strongest. He uses his skill and completely removes Ryu's skill, after which he decides to hit Ryuya, but the boy still proves stronger. Ryuya asks Liber to look at his stats. The hero looks at his parameters and sees that the skill is no longer there. The hero falls into hysterics, begging for the skill to take effect. Ryuya punches him in the face again, knocking the guy out. The next day, the hero without skill is expelled from the church, and Ryu must pay compensation for the wall, but the king decides to help 5 Mu. The king believes the hero is to blame for losing his skill, while the girls consider the hero a criminal. Ryuya says the girls should have returned home. The girls said they watched the fight. They also told the king about the boys' fight in detail. The king says the boys are unlikely to back down from their loved one's testimony, to which the spirit replies there's nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, the men are repairing the wall. Ryuya says things are bad since the church is the only one who can resist the demon. The king, however, says he'll do everything to support the boy. Unfortunately, the king cannot speak out in defense of the boy and asks if Ryuya wants to become a nobleman. Leonhardt doesn't want to force the boy, but if things remain as they are, the church will take action. The spirit says he's not worried, but the king is worried about his daughter. The spirit suggests the idea of marrying Ryu to the princess. Anabian thinks this is the perfect plan, and the king agrees. Ryuya begins to think things over and realizes that this is the best option. The spirit says that in this case, the boy will be connected to the king. The king, however, agrees with the spirit's idea of Ryu becoming his son-in-law. The king is pleased and says Ryuya will take the position of any aristocrat. The boy is shocked that the spirit and the king have become so closely aligned. Ryuya tells them to stop making decisions for him and considers the whole idea nonsense. The guy reminds him that the king wants his daughter to marry someone she likes. Ryuya won't marry the princess if she doesn't like him. The spirit says it's no problem and they'll find out everything now. She decides to call the knight's girlfriend. The princess arrives quickly and thinks Ryu should at least be repaid with politeness. The boy looks up the girl's information. He notices that the princess's level has increased and a degree of affection has also appeared. The spirit explains that this degree indicates a person's feelings for the boy. The spirit says that this is proof of love, but the guy is surprised when the girl managed to fall in love. The king tells his daughter about the plans and she mistakenly thinks that she will be given to the church. Leonhardt says he's decided to marry the girl off. His daughter says she'll devote her life to knighthood. The girl refuses to get married and her father says that Ryuya will be the groom. The princess blushes deeply, not expecting such a turn of events. The king explains Rui's position, which confuses Lesledze even more. The king says that since the girl is against it, there's nothing he can do when suddenly the princess interrupts him. The spirit whispers to the boy that the girl has fallen in love with him. The princess says she can't do that because Ryu is a hero and she will be happy with him. The king doesn't understand what's going on. The girl says the guy has Noam who also loves Ryuya. The princess can't do that to Noam. Noam says that the master's happiness is important to her because it is only thanks to him that she is here. In the end, the girls quarrel and the spirit says that she will take the guy. In the end, the spirit and the king decide that the guy will take both girls. The king says it's common and believes the man wouldn't hurt the girls. The spirit, however, says the lord must have many wives. The king asks the boy if he will accept this marriage for the sake of the future of the country. Finally, Ryuya agrees, and suddenly everyone goes silent. After this, Noam and the princess rejoice. The king is happy and now considers Ryu as his son and a member of the family. The spirit finds the king cheerful and sits smoking. She hasn't felt this happy in a long time. News about Rui spread quickly. 3 boys reading the news decide to get off right there. The girl thinks Ryuya is a hick. It turns out these 3 are the king's children and they have finally returned. The princess meets Ryu in their new mansion. The boy is embarrassed at the sight of the girl and says he's simply very happy. The princess admits that she has never behaved like a girl and does not know if she can become a good wife. The girl says the guy is very great and she will do whatever he wants. She also asks if Ryu wants to take a bath or exercise. Ryuya asks what Noam is doing and learns that she is in the lab. The princess says the king sent a letter asking her to come to the castle. The girl also says that if it's necessary, it's for a reason. The next day, the first princess and the first prince meet the boy at the palace. The boys are also met by the second prince. The firstborn argue about who will become the next ruler. The father interrupts the children. Lesledze explains that they are the king's children and that they will lead the kingdom in the future. The first prince insults the princess, but praises her for explaining everything correctly. The girl says she's ready to do anything for the kingdom and her brother tells her to try harder. Ryuya interrupts the boy. Unexpectedly for everyone, Ryuya punches the guy in the back. Lesledze tries to stop Ryuya, but he's clearly angry. The boy explains that everyone is equal from birth, and with a king like the first prince, the country will quickly fall. The prince calls for soldiers to help. The father interrupts him and asks Ryuya to calm down. The prince, however, demands that Ryuya be punished. The king quickly shuts the prince up and explains that Ryu is a great hero and if it weren't for him, everyone would have died at the hands of the demons. The prince says he'll forgive the boy, but he should be grateful. The prince also asks his father to teach him wisdom, and eventually all the children greet their father and introduce themselves. The father is glad that the children have returned and says that he will tell them important news. He disqualifies all three from inheriting the throne. The children do not understand why their father deprived them of this right and consider it unfair. The father decides to listen to the children and they insist that the kingdom is their homeland, to which the king asks why they all ran away. The king explains that they fled as soon as the kingdom was in danger. Luckily, Ryuya saved everyone. Lesolid says that his father has taken command and they have gathered all possible forces for battle. Ryuya understands that the king is truly a capable ruler. The children, meanwhile, fled the kingdom, believing that the country would be destroyed by demons. The king is the country, and if the country dies and the king lives, it's a joke. The children are still trying to justify themselves. The first princess says she was prepared to be branded a disgrace and therefore ran away. The king, however, stands his ground and considers the children cowards. The elders are still trying to justify themselves and convince their father. They also say that only they can inherit the throne. The king says that besides these three, there is another candidate, Lesledza. Since the king has disinherited everyone, only Lesledza remains. The girl, however, didn't expect such a turn of events. She explains that she doesn't know how to rule a country, to which her father replies that he can learn. Panicked, the girl asks Rui for his opinion. Lesledza says that she must discuss everything with Ryuya because he is her husband, and the elders are surprised that the hero became her husband. The first prince is furious and considers Lesledza a dog born of a commoner. He demands that his father come to his senses, but the king is against it. The father explains that the children are half foreigners, but Lesledza is not. Lesledza will be the successor, and this is not up for discussion. The second prince decides to intervene and says that his father made the right choice. The boy also promises to follow him to the end. The elders are shocked, and the younger one admits that he never had a chance of winning the throne anyway. He also asked what Ryu is like. The prince says rumors about Ryu spread quickly, but it was the guild master who spoke most about the boy. She also handed out brochures. The prince says the boy has no skills, and Ryuya confirms this. The prince says Lesledza's husband must have skills because he will become king. The girl stands up for her husband, but her brother says that if rumors spread, it could end badly. The girl assumes that her brother wants her to marry someone else, but her brother just wants to help her. The prince says that D rank is the rank of a newly minted adventurer. The king decides to issue a new decree. Ryu won't be promoted to a higher rank even if the king himself asks. The prince, however, says a higher rank can compensate for her lack of skill and suggests promoting Ryu to a rank. Ryuya says he'll do everything he can to rise in rank. The elders seem to have something in mind. The king is glad that his youngest son treats him well, to which he says that he has always thought about this country. The next day at the Adventurers Guild, Ryuya ponders everything over lunch. Meanwhile, they're picking out a dress for the princess, and Noam says they'll make it together. The master says the guys have achieved rank B for saving people. The guy asks if it's normal to jump from one rank to another like that. The master gets angry and starts shouting as the rank was awarded by the council. The spirit believes the council must be destroyed. The master mentions that to obtain a rank you need to pass a special exam and explains in more detail. The exam is next month and the boy has to take it. Noam also decides to take it. The guy remarks that the master is taking care of him, to which she replies that she's waiting for the guys to arrive. Noam asks the master to come to the meeting place on the appointed day. The master says the meeting place changes every time and Ryuya gives it some thought. The girls decide to head out, but Ryuya says they need to inform the princess. A few days later, the boys reach the kingdom of Rubrum. This kingdom is located in the center of several port cities. The children are delighted as they are seeing the sea for the first time. They rejoice and the spirit says they made a lot of noise. Anabian also says that she followed the seabed somehow. Magical spirits live in the sea and the girl has visited several of them on business. Noam is surprised that a spirit has such acquaintances. In the Adventurers Guild, guys are driven away because of the guy's lack of ability. Noam gives the leader a note from a master in their kingdom. Ryuya says the note was written in simple language so everyone would understand his high level. The boss doesn't trust the guys and thinks it's all a lie. He also thinks the guy forged an official document. Noam pours the potion on the leader, demanding an apology. She also says she wants to pass the exam too. The boss looks at her document and is amazed at her skill. The girl says that if Ryuya fails the exam, neither will she. She also says that Ryuya will attain the legendary rank, but the leader couldn't recognize him. The girl asks if the leader will recognize Ryuya if he deals with one of the monsters roaming the area. The boss thinks the guy isn't capable of such a thing. The girl tells the boss not to pretend he overslept and the guys leave. Ryuya apologizes for the girl having to push him around for him, but she's only too happy about it. She also says she didn't throw water on him. It turns out she doused the leader with a hair reversal potion. Ryuya is glad the leader's life is not in danger. After some time, the guys arrived on the outskirts of the city. Noam tells the boy not to worry. The spirit sat on Noam's shoulders, and the guy doesn't understand what's happening. Noam has brewed a potion for research purposes that attracts monsters. Ryuya is interested in how many monsters it can attract. The girl opens the bottle and the potion stinks terribly. The monsters immediately start walking. The spirit says there are about 200 of them. She also asks the guy not to make a mistake. As soon as the monsters approached, the guy immediately attacked them. He uses a wall of compressed air and quickly defeats weak monsters. The spirit says the monsters number in the thousands. Suddenly, all the monsters fly into pieces. The next day, Ryuya destroyed all the monsters with one blow. People and the leader gathered at the scene of the massacre, shocked by how many monsters had been defeated. Noam says the mayor is to blame for not believing in the boy's strength, but now no one in the city will be in danger. Noam asks the chief to carefully consider whether other adventurers could defeat so many. Ultimately, the chief promises to sort out all the formalities. The girls finished collecting materials from the monsters and talked with the head of the artisans along the way. The exam is in a few days, and Ryuya decides that she needs to plan everything carefully. The spirit notices that Noam and Ryuya stink terribly, but the guys don't understand anything. The boys eventually head to the sea to wash up. Noam washed her clothes with a strong detergent. Ryuya wonders why Noam is late, and finally the girl comes in a cute swimsuit. Ryuya blushes slightly and begins to embarrass the girl. He looks around and sees girls in bathing suits. Noam immediately covers his eyes, telling him he can't look. The spirit says Noam tried really hard and deserves a big compliment. The girl says it's the first time she's worn a swimsuit. The spirit also dresses in a rather revealing swimsuit. The guy asks Noam to cover up Anabian. The spirit notices that the guy panicked and advises the girl to also boldly seduce him. The girls grab Ryu and drag him into the sea. The guy reminds them that they still have an exam coming up. As a result, the guys have a great time at the sea. On the day of the exam, Ryu is a little nervous, but Noam says that he will pass everything easily. The boys arrive at a place created specifically for these exams. Ryuya invites the girl to show off their skills. Ryuya also thinks he has a higher chance of failing this exam. Suddenly, someone calls out to him. Some guys think Ryu doesn't know his place since he came to the exam. They mock him and look scary, which frightens Noam. The guy confirms his lack of ability and says he doesn't care what happens next. The guys, however, think Ryuya isn't ready since he came here empty-handed. They continue to mock him, believing that the guy can't do anything because he doesn't even have any potions. Ryuya shows them the potions, but they still stand their ground. Finally, everyone is asked to gather, and the exam begins. To begin with, a place and all the necessary amenities were provided for the exam. The exam was conducted by several supervisors, one of whom thanked the queen on behalf of the adventurers. The curators welcome participants and hope that among the participants there will be those equal to them. The exam begins, but before that they decide to announce the invited guest. The invited guest turns out to be the first prince. The guy says he has ties to this country. It turns out the prince is the son of the queen of this country. Ryuya thinks nothing good awaits him now. The curator clarifies that achieving this rank will make it easier for people to conduct their activities in the future. The prince, however, says he wants everyone associated with his sister to fail. Ryuya hears the whispers of the curator and the prince and convinces me that the exam will not go smoothly. Ryuya listens to the whispers and draws conclusions. Ultimately, he decides not to give in. They start listing people and Ryuya wishes the girl good luck. After several people, the listing ends and the curator asks if the others know why they were not named. The others lack the ability and are not allowed to participate. Ryuya says they can participate despite their lack of ability. The supervisor says no one without ability has ever achieved a rank. Ryuya says she'll pass the exam. He is not going to give up, and the others support the guy. Ultimately, the curator decides to conduct a special test for the people. Ryuya asks everyone to watch their step. Suddenly, a large black hole appears beneath the participants. The participants fall into it, but this is not the only danger that awaits them. At the last moment, Ryuya manages to look at the curator's information. The people land and fortunately survive. They realize they're in a dungeon, and Ryuya says it's a spode. The curator says that he has a special exam for these people and explains that they need to pass this test. Ryuya leads the people and bids them move forward. They set off on their journey inspired. Suddenly, there's a loud roar and the thugs who bullied the boy appear. He asks about their abilities, to which they say they don't and that they've already taken this test 7 times. The boys decide to join in and want to take the exam, but first, Ryuya tells them to stop laughing so annoyingly. Ryuya contacts the spirit and explains the situation. He says he'll try to cope and asks for Noam's support. The spirit says that the girl is doing well. The curators are amazed at the girl's strength, and she understands that the essence of the exam is to withstand the onslaught of examiners. At this rate, they want to keep the number of participants to a minimum. The examiner goes up against Noam. Shiger says Noam is a ton of trouble and demonstrates her abilities. She also says Noam has no chance of winning by accident. Noam is ready for the fight and says she will defeat her opponent. The girl says that the curators are the worst, but she will give this lady a good beating and show the difference between them. The cat girl starts to get angry and attacks. They shout at her not to come any closer as Noam has alchemy skills. Noam throws potions at the cat. The cat inhales the smell of the potion and feels pain. Noam notes that in cat form her sense of smell is heightened and the potion is more effective. She also wants to pour the potion on the cat. The cat panics and asks her to stop, but the girl continues to throw potions. The cat tries to escape using reflexes, but it doesn't work very well. In the end, Noam douses the cat with the potion, and it goes crazy from the smell. The girl pulls out a huge bat, but the cat mistakenly thinks it's a good thing. Noam says that thanks to alchemy, the blow will be 10 times stronger. The girl swings, and the cat understands that she is finished. Luckily for the cat, Noam deliberately misses when he hits nearby. The girl says she won't miss next time, and the cat gives up in a panic. The girl is told that she has passed the first part of the exam and is sent to rest. Noam asks if ability is important, causing the examiner to become stunned. The girl says that she hates abilities and tells how she got them. She tells how she was kidnapped and how one day one man changed her destiny. This brought the girl more happiness than any ability. The man doesn't understand what the girl is talking about, while Noam is ready to destroy him. The spirit tells the boy that he has nothing to worry about, and Ryuya decides to concentrate on his exam. The companions notice the boy's head is in the clouds and ask what's wrong. They also say that their goal is to get everyone out. Ryuya notices that thanks to the big guys, no one has fallen behind yet. Ryuya asks why the guys took command, and they explain. They say that they cannot give up on their goal, and even without abilities they will increase their rank. The guy understands that the boys have grown into real veterans and is amazed. The boys continue to run and notice an enemy ahead. Ryuya defeats the enemy with one blow, and the boys continue on their way. A black hole appears ahead. Everyone starts to think it's the exit, but Ryuya asks them to wait. One of the people disappears into this hole. Eventually, the big guy suggests they go through as they have no choice. One of the comrades has already been swallowed up, which means they are obliged to come to his aid, and Ryuya agrees with this. The whole crowd of guys runs into the hole. The proctor thinks the kids are idiots. The kids end up somewhere. The boys notice that it looks like the original place they ended up in. Ryuya realizes that the examiner doesn't want them to pass. The examiner, with a grin, says he believes in the boys. Ryuya understands that they were given an impossible task to eliminate them. The people realize the examiners are looking down on them. One big guy wants to give up, but Ryuya stops him. Meanwhile, the spirit decides to give the guy a lecture. Ryuya decides that he will go down since the core is there and the guy will simply destroy it. The guy explains that if the core is destroyed, the ability to alter space with it will be blown away. The guys understand everything but consider this reckless. They explain that the Edro is difficult to destroy, but Ryu has an idea. The guy punches the floor, breaking through it. Ryuya explains that at this rate he'll reach the core. He asks the others to wait where they are. The guys support Ryuya and suggest getting together later. Ryuya breaks through the floor and ends up on the very bottom floor. The guy destroys the core and realizes that he needs to get back up quickly. Ryuya gets out and asks if everyone managed to get out. In the end, the entire company passed the test. The examiner is shocked and Ryuya says they all passed. The examiner, however, says they destroyed a dungeon that is the country's property. It turns out this was an important dungeon and its destruction will cause many people to lose their jobs. The guys couldn't care less. Ryuya says that he personally destroyed the core, but it was the examiner who started it all. Ryuya recalls the examiner's words and everyone claims that the examiner should pay for the damages, since it was his idea. Ryuya says that the guy needs to behave according to his rank and everyone supports Ryuya's opinion. The examiner says he doesn't care and never wanted this position in the first place. He doesn't care if people report it and that it's all the guild's fault. The examiner runs away and the boys are firmly convinced that they are not guilty. They come to the other examiners and say that they have passed the exam. Ryuya says they passed the supplementary exam and are now asking for the main one. He also passes on a message. The examiners are shocked that the guys destroyed the dungeon and are angry at their colleague. One of them checks the dungeon and confirms something has been destroyed. Ryuya explains everything and the examiners scold each other. The examiner starts to attack Ryuya, but the guy claims that it's their own fault. Ryuya recalls the spirit explaining the lecture. She also mentioned that she could create a new core. Ryuya insists that the examiners themselves created conditions that make it impossible to pass the exam. The examiner is angry, but his colleague tries to calm him down. A colleague decides to deal with the guy himself and uses his ability to turn into Iron Man. He starts to attack, but Ryu easily parries the blow. The examiner doesn't understand why his armor broke, and Ryu attacks him in the meantime. The examiner flies away, and his armor is completely destroyed. Ryuya clarifies the conditions for passing the exam and prepares to attack the second examiner. He doesn't believe that the boy will defeat him, when suddenly they are told to stop. A girl appears and asks if the exam is taking place here. The examiner bows, and Ryuya wonders who it is. The examiner introduces the girl, and Ryu also bows. The girl asks about the second examiner. The examiner explains that the destruction of the dungeon was not in the plans and regrets that it happened. The girl says that now the curator is responsible and now it is his personal fault. She also asks Ryu if he destroyed the dungeon and the guy answers. Ryu explains how he destroyed the core. The girl says that this is the first time she's heard about an additional exam for people without abilities and says that the curator will answer for his actions. The girl said she'd instructed the curator, but he didn't seem to hear her. Ryuya hadn't expected the girl to be so picky about the curator. The girl says she's disappointed in her supervisor. She also assures that if the supervisor's assertion is true, she will apologize. She addresses the exam participants and apologizes. She also says that everyone will be able to continue taking the exam. The exam is suspended and people are sent off to rest. The girl also wants to hear all the details from the supervisor. Noam calls out to Ryuya, who's glad the boy is safe. Ryuya is also happy for the girl. They decide to return to the hotel but are interrupted by the big guys. They thank Ryuya for her help. Ryuya remembers he forgot to mention he could return the dungeon. Suddenly, the examiner glares at the boy from around the corner and then runs away. Already at the hotel, Noam goes to take a shower, leaving the guy in the room. The girl returns asking if Ryuya would like to take a shower first, to which he sends her first. The spirit explains that Noam, deep down, hopes that she and Ryuya will take a shower together. Ryuya says they'll shower separately and alone. Then Anabian decides to shower with Noam, but Ryuya stops her, asking how things are going. The spirit explains that the examiner got what he deserved. The girl also notes that Ryuya doesn't want to lose. In any case, the examiner will be punished, and he got off easy. Ryuya considers asking Anabian to create a new core later. The spirit, however, says there's a reason to destroy the core and doesn't understand why it can't be left as is. Ryuya is grateful to the spirit for always helping him. He's happy to have such a reliable ally. The spirit says that her clone followed that guy and reproduces on the wall everything that the clone saw. At the hotel, the prince and the examiner argue about what happened. The examiner says the prince was the one who started all this in the first place. He also says the prince will also get what he deserves. The examiner won't shield the prince and will tell him everything. The prince immediately panics. He tries to convince the examiner to take the blame, but the examiner says they should die together. Tonight, the examiner plans to attack Ryuya. He plans to kill the boy and set the hotel on fire. He also decides to get rid of Noam. The prince asks why he doesn't take her with him and make her a slave, to which the examiner says that for safety's sake he should get rid of her too. Ryuya tells the spirit to act, and she doesn't let the guys move. They ask if this is the work of a spirit, and she confirms. Ryuya comes out to the boys, who react negatively to him. The prince immediately starts whining that he is the future king, and the examiner breaks free from the spirit magic. The ghost evaluates a man's ability the more he irritates him. He himself talks about his ability, and the spirit understands that the stronger the attack, the stronger the counterattack will be. The examiner begins to attack, drawing a pentagram. The spirit notices this, but the boy feels that if there's no response, the examiner won't be able to jump anymore. The man attacks Ryu. The guy blocks the punch with his hand, and the examiner is shocked. Ryuya is surprised that the man still thinks about abilities, but the man thinks that the guy is lying and that he doesn't have abilities. The examiner continues to attack the guy because he doesn't want him to take his rank away from him. The man thinks the boy has an SS rank ability. He wonders if his efforts will be dashed. The man thinks it's too early to give up. Ryuya points out that he can't even grab the man, to which the man repels not only attacks but any external force. Ryuya asks what will happen if he tries to knock down the examiner, to which he says that he will kill the guy. The man tries to cut the guy's stomach, but he fails. He tries again but ends up with a numb arm. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Ryuya squeezes the examiner's shoulders, causing him to scream. The spirit asks if it was worth compressing the man's bones, to which the boy replies that he can no longer be an adventurer. The prince is shocked by this image. Ryuya decides to take care of the prince, but he's already afraid. He doesn't want to die and doesn't want his father to know about this. Unexpectedly, the prince uses the royal skill. He hypnotizes Ryu to do what the prince wants. In the end, Ryuya succumbs to the charm and the prince is pleased. Ryuya sharply slaps the prince across the face and says that the guy's voice really did resonate in his chest, but it didn't touch him one bit. He says that only Leslidze had a voice that could touch thousands of people. The spirit considers the boy strong-willed as he was unaffected by the hypnosis. She also says that hitting the prince was the right decision. Since the guys managed to defeat the main instigators, all that remains is to send the spirit to deal with the small fry. Unexpectedly, the examiner mentions Riccoli's. He starts shouting that if a person stronger than the examiners becomes their enemy, then this will need to be used. The examiner says that now Ryu will die at the hands of the monster. Suddenly, a jellyfish appears from the muck on the floor. Ryuya doesn't understand what's happening. The spirit notices the jellyfish and says that the examiner was not deceived, since the jellyfish is Nele's child. Nele's is a devilish ghost of the seas, and the goddess of Oceanese will come to save her child. The spirit notices that a spell was cast on the glass from the jar, preventing Oceanese from knowing that her child was missing. Oceanese sensed the loss and is now coming here. The sea on the beach has receded significantly, and the spirit says that this is the goddess's anger for the harm caused to her child. The spirit also sees this as a plus, as a new beach will now appear. Ryuya wonders what needs to be done to prevent the goddess from destroying the city. The spirit tells the examiner that he was tricked, since he summoned a creature of the most powerful class. Ryuya suggests taking the jellyfish out to sea, but this is impossible. Because of the air, the Neelums are quickly weakening. Ryuya panics, not knowing what to do. A sleepy Noam appears, bringing a mini aquarium for the jellyfish. The jellyfish is noticeably better. The spirit says the child is terribly weak. Meanwhile, Noam wakes the examiner, asking about the jellyfish. The girl is very happy and goes to cook something for the jellyfish. The spirit says the goddess is fast and it's not a given that the spirit will defeat her. Therefore, someone else must stop the goddess. Ryuya runs to the beach and asks to look after Noam. People around feel the approach of the goddess and do not understand what is happening. Ryuya meets the thugs and asks them to evacuate the city, while he himself goes to the slaughter. The guys believe in Ryu and go to evacuate everyone. The others also decide to help and Ryuya puts his hopes in them. At the beach, Ryuya is met by a huge tsunami that looks like a black mountain. The boy had never felt anything like this with other enemies. This time, he had no room for error. There are important people he needs to protect, and Ryuya is preparing to attack. The guy hits the tsunami. A hole is made in the water and it starts to rain. Then the second wave comes and Ryuya prepares to fight it off again. The guy is not going to back down and hits the water. The tsunami is approaching and everyone is running to higher ground. Ryuya understands that if even one wave passes, the city is finished. He continues to beat back the waves. He He starts to deliver several blows in a row. The wave begins to advance with renewed vigor, and Ryuya realizes that he cannot continue the attacks indefinitely. He asks Noam to try to restore the baby as quickly as possible, otherwise Ryuya won't last. The guy notices that his clothes have become heavier, when suddenly a devilish ghost addresses him. She says that she came for her baby and will kill those who took him. Ryuya says he won't drown due to lack of air. He understands that neither he nor the ghost harmed each other. Ryuya understands that she will not be able to come to an agreement, and the ghost demands the return of her child. Noam appears and shows the ghost the child. The ghost immediately changes shape and runs to her baby. The ghost thanks for saving his child. She also greets the spirit. Meanwhile, it's already sunrise and the boy is surprised he fought until morning. Everyone tried hard and won. The ghost thanks the boys again. The spirit notes that everyone was scared when they saw the waves. The ghost promises to kill the man who stole her child and asks if the guys know who it is. Ryuya mentions that it's one of the adventurers and the ghost gets angry. The spirit tells her to slow down and scolds her. The spirit promises to conduct an investigation and find the culprit. The ghost gives the children a vase from which water gushes in unlimited quantities. The water is completely pure without impurities. Noam thanks her for the gift, but the ghost says that if anyone else takes the vase, it will stop working. The ghost will never forget the boy's deed, after which she thanks the spirit. Anabian says everything is fine and she gets everything she needs while being with the boys. The ghost explains to Ryu what devil ghosts are. She thinks the guy is amazing since the spirit decided to accompany him. The spirit says the owner is amazing. In the end, the ghost returns to itself. A little later, the boys came to the king of Rubrum. The king apologized for his nephew's actions. The king believes that his nephew had every potential to become king, but he got involved with the wrong people. Ryuya is surprised that, with such relatives, the prince grew up an idiot. The king also says he will leave the choice of punishment to the prince's father, and the prince himself is under house arrest. Ryuya asks about the examiner, and the king calls for council member Bystamaria. The girl says it was decided to fire her because she failed to keep an eye on her charge. The king, however, is against it. The guards support the king's opinion and urge the girl not to give up. Ultimately, she decides to work as hard as she can. The king also mentions saving the kingdom, and Ryu says his strength lies in his levels. The king praises the boy. Bystamaria has something to say to the boy, so the king lets her speak. The girl starts talking about the exam and decides to analyze the boy. The girl talks in more detail about her skill. She says the analysis is a special second stage of the test. She also says there were several different types of adventurers. She also says that information has been recorded that 3 bodybuilders have every chance of passing the 3rd stage of the exam. The girl says that both Noam and Ryuya have shown that they are worthy of moving on to the next stage. The girl says that Noam does not have to pass the entire exam and that she is awarded the rank early. It turns out Noam has been awarded an S rank. She's shocked and nervous. There is no exam for this rank, and it is only awarded if all members of the council agree. Ryuya also receives this rank. The girl says the boy made the biggest contribution to the rescue, and she intends to put in a good word for Ryuya. The king also wants to reward the boys. Rui has 2 requests. The first is not to interfere with the public punishment of Zemnanto, and the second is to assist Lesleds in his rise to the throne. The king agrees to the terms, and Ryuya thanks him. The kids receive cards with a rank and are happy. The kids are happy that their cards are now shining, but the spirit is again talking nonsense. The guys from the exam also congratulate the guys and rejoice with them. To the boys' surprise, only unskilled adventurers were allowed to advance to the next stage. Now the boys won't miss their chance to advance in rank. It's time for farewells, and Ryuya says goodbye to the guys. The boys return home, where they are joyfully greeted by the guild master. Ryuya is surprised, thinking that the master and Bystamaria are childhood friends. He thinks the master sent her friend a note, but ultimately decides he's just overthinking it. The master says that each new A-rank adventurer increases the guild's influence. The master also imagines how her salary will increase when the boys advance in rank and proposes to Ryu that they become lovers. In the end, the boy picks up Noam and runs off to report to the king. The king, meanwhile, learned about the S-rank and happily jumps around the castle. Leonhardt says that he has been waiting for the boy for a long time and was shocked by the news that the boy could become an S-rank. This news was happy for everyone. Ryuya was surprised that the news had spread so widely and asked about the princess. The king thinks that Ryu is bored and says that the princess will arrive soon. Leslie's had just arrived. She'd been waiting for the boys to return. She congratulated Noam on her promotion. The princess asks if anyone has been bothering Ryu, and Noam says that the boy has become close to people with mohawks. The king decides to add a word about the upcoming wedding. Ryuya says it's not yet certain whether he'll be promoted to higher rank. The king promised that if Ryu's rank was raised, he would increase the donations to adventurers. Besides, the boys had saved Rubrum and their king should help too. The king finishes his report and dismisses the boys. He also mentions that offspring is the most important thing for a king. The king asks the guy to take the initiative and divide the love equally between the girls. The first princess appears, having found some pile of papers, and demands an explanation. The king explains that he wants to marry his daughter off. The girl becomes hysterical, claiming she's a princess. The king reminds that the heir is Leslie's, and the first princess was removed from the list. The girl asks to be married at least to the duke of this kingdom, but the father cannot marry his daughter to a man of lower status. The father says he's chosen good options for his daughter. The spirit considers the king an unusual person. Leonhardt says he's made the best decision. The king remembers he didn't ask about his son. The first princess asks Ryu if he knows what it's like to date royalty. Leslie's notes that flirting with other people's husbands is bad. As a result, the women argue. Meanwhile, Noam prepares the potion. The second prince comes to the king. The king hopes the prince doesn't want to oppose the succession, but the prince's opinion remains unmoved. The boy says someone urgently wants to meet with the king and Ryuya. The king agrees to meet the man and the prince calls him. The girls are still arguing. An advisor to the Adventurers Guild enters the hall and the king asks what business he has come for. The king asks his son why he brought the advisor, to which he replies that the advisor wants to appeal. The guys don't like the advisor, and meanwhile the advisor starts talking quietly. The king asks when the last meeting was, and the advisor replies. The advisor says that there has never been anyone higher than rank A, and besides, Ryuya doesn't have any skill, to which the king replies that the boy is a hero. Ryuya understands that if they hadn't intervened, the kingdom would have collapsed. The advisor, however, doesn't believe Ryuya could have done such a thing. In the council meeting room, two girls attack the council. The girls give the advisor a punch in the nose. That's how the decision to promote the guy was made. The advisor asks to stop the process of promoting Rui's rank. The king pretends not to hear anything. The advisor tries to explain everything, but the king doesn't care. The advisor says they've been blamed for everything that happened and are demanding compensation. The king decides to listen to Ryuya. The boy explains the story from his own perspective, and the king understands the situation with the spirit. The king thinks that everything is fair, but the advisor disagrees. The advisor suggests that Ryu refuse the reward, but the king only laughs at this. The king thought the guild consisted of worthy people, but the advisor dared to neglect his duties. The advisor tried to reason with the king. He talks about the truth of this world, and if Ryu loves this world, then he must refuse the reward. The king says he's heard the advisor's position. The advisor, pleased, asks to speak with the king of Rubrum. The king clarifies what he must convince the king of and clarifies the question about Rui's rank. The advisor responds with satisfaction, thinking the king will help him, but the king says he will have to cancel the guild's donations. The advisor asks him to reconsider, saying that the guild will always lack money, to which the king makes the condition of raising Ryu's rank. The advisor says he will raise Noam's rank, but the girl refuses since Ryu won't be raised either. The girl explains that only Ryuya is worthy of a promotion and she is not. She believes all her achievements are due solely to Ryuya. The advisor begins insulting the girl and Rui's patience runs out. He throws the advisor face first into the floor. The king also gets angry, and because of his power, the advisor flies away. The king has sat on the throne for decades, and the advisor is not the first to try to deceive him. The advisor is also trying to deceive King Rubrum. He drives the advisor out of the capital, who asks him to say just one thing. He talks about relations with the church and offers to help, but the king says that it was his initiative. Leonhardt demands that the advisor be taken away, and the guards carry out the order. Ryuya realizes that the church is subjugating influential people to rule the world. He stops the guards and mentions Soids. Ryuya asks if he was behind all this, to which the advisor insults the guy. Ryuya believes he can talk to the advisor however he wants. The advisor immediately cites important matters and hurries to leave the palace. The spirit encases him in smoke, preventing him from passing. She suspects that someone else is behind the advisor, who is asking the king for salvation. The spirit is ready to protect the advisor as long as he is useful. The guys interrogate the advisor, and Noam gives him truth serum. Taking the potion ages the brain by 10 years, and Ryuya becomes thoughtful. Suddenly, the king is informed of an invasion. An intruder has broken into the castle. The king asks Ryuya to protect him and the children. The guards see the enemy as a cat suddenly jumps out. Noam asks everyone to stop. The girl hugs Shiger. The girls are happy to be reunited and have a nice conversation. Ryuya asks when they became friends, and they explain. It turns out Shiger also helped during the tsunami. Noam asks the girl why she's here, and she takes on human form. She says she has a very important message. The king introduces himself, and the cat immediately begins to sniff him. The girl says that a great misfortune has happened. The guild was attacked by demons, and they urgently need help. Meanwhile, a demon sits in the guild's main office, ready to kill everyone. The king wonders why the demons attacked. The cat, in tears, explains how it happened. Cat explains that an unscheduled meeting was held, and that's when the demons attacked. Demons always warn of an attack, thereby weakening vigilance. This time they came without warning, and they were very strong. The adventurers fought but were defeated. The cat also said that they were attacked by 3 demons, which surprised the first princess. Ryuya believes they should go to the rescue. The cat also says that Mario is determined about this meeting. Ryuya doesn't want to abandon the girl in trouble and decides that they should help. The king understands that if nothing is done, the demons will start killing people out of boredom. The cat says the demons arrived recently and were immediately sent for help. The girl used all her strength to get there as quickly as possible. Ryuya decided she would go there. There's no time, and the boy doesn't want Mario to die. The spirit says he'll go too. The cat notices the advisor and asks what he is doing here. Cat recalls hearing someone ask for ricolis and sods before leaving. Ryuya realizes they need to bring the advisor to the guild. The advisor doesn't want to go there, but he has no choice. The king orders the advisor to be returned and help the guild. Ryuya thanks the cat for her help and tells her to stay in the castle and rest. The girl apologizes for mocking the boy. She is ready to apologize for everyone and asks to save the guild, because they are her only friends. The boy calls to the princess, who is already ready to go. He asks her to send reinforcements if he needs help. The advisor is willing to die rather than join the guild. Noam, however, arrives with a super-fast glider. The guy is surprised, and the girl says the machine was created using advanced alchemical techniques. With this machine, they'll get there in no time. Ryuya wondered if this was too strong for alchemy. He was about to run, but since the car would deliver quickly, he agreed. The advisor is tied outside the car, and the guys ride inside. The girl says that she will drive herself, and the guy should watch. The girl starts the car, and the spirit finds the spell interesting. Ryuya asks if she'll get in. The spirit says it will get there using magic. Finally, Noam starts the car, and they drive off. The advisor starts screaming from such speed. The car is moving very fast, and the cat realizes that she would wet her pants. Finally, the guys arrive at the destination, and the guy is surprised at how quickly they got there. Noam warns them that the landing will be rough. The boys reached the guild gates, and apparently their transport broke down. Ryuya was carrying Noam and dragging the advisor. The guy notices smoke and thinks they didn't make it in time. The spirit says they took a long time to get there. While the boys were gone, the spirit checked out the situation. The demons had destroyed the council, but the humans were in no danger. The boys wonder why the demons spared the people and find it suspicious. The boys walk along the road to the main building and see devastation everywhere. The residential areas are controlled by monsters, and they don't allow people to leave. The spirit says she's melted all the monsters. She leads the boys to a building where the ringleaders are apparently hiding. Noam notices that there are a lot of wounded and decides to help them. Ryuya and the advisor head to the main building. A group of defeated adventurers are sitting in the main building, and they notice Ryu. The demon has been waiting for the guy for a long time and says that he left the adventurers alive because he doesn't want to get dirty. The demon introduces himself, but Ryu doesn't care. Tansa thinks the guy is stupid or crazy, and the guy asks about the other demons. Tansa asks another demon if he found something, but there are no adventurers needed, only Ryuya. Debdebriza suggests killing one of the adventurers, but the main one forbids it. Ryuya gives the demons an advisor, who considers him a traitor. The demon understands that this is the one they need, and the advisor offers to negotiate. The demon considers Ryuya a villain, to which the guy offers them to leave in exchange for advisors. The demons say that they need these two, and they will kill the rest without suffering. Ryuya clarifies whether the hunt is somehow connected with Oceanese. The demons say the guy doesn't need to know about this. They're going to finish him off and tell him to get ready. Ryuya thought long and hard about the battle with Benyon and managed to invent a technique that would kill demons while ignoring their regeneration. The demon thinks the technique's name is stupid, and the adventurers are surprised that the boy killed the demon with one blow. The demon remembers Ryu and asks if he killed Benyon. The boy offers to convince the demon, which makes the demon laugh. Ryuya tells him to prepare for others to laugh at him. The demon asks the boy if he knows who he's dealing with and says he'll never defeat him. Ryu assumes this demon is the strongest. The demon gets angry, saying he's much stronger than the others. The guy reminds her of his offer. Ryuya says this isn't a bargaining chip, but a proposal for a peaceful solution. The demon, however, says that the fate of humans and demons is to fight to the death. Ryuya recognized his opponent and used another strike. The demon, shocked, couldn't comprehend what had happened. He barely escaped the blow, and Ryuya suggests hitting him again. The demon thinks it's the boy's skill. The demon says they've surpassed human skills, and Ryu looks up information about him. The second demon asks the leader what he should do. The demon decides to show how scary they can be, and Ryuya in turn will show how scary humans are. Zoids appears, saying that he will defeat the demon. The adventurers say they'll finish the man off because this is all because of him. The man says it was planned that way. It turns out the man's accomplice cured him and hid him to keep him out of prison. Zoids is confident he'll save everyone, but the adventurers send him away. The man mocks the demon, considering them weak, and Ryu believes that the man is seeing a demon for the first time. The demon considers people fools, but Zoids shuts him up by saying that now he will see the skill of the legendary adventurer. The demon says that he will kill the man and begins to attack. The man repels the attack and talks about his skill. He says that even a demon can't harm him. Suddenly, the man feels ill. He remembers how he proposed to his girlfriend. He remembers how she greeted him at home with a terribly prepared dinner, and how his mother's blood splashed onto the guy. His wife divorced him and left him for another man, and the guy wounded his wife with a reflection. The man bursts into tears at the memory, and the demon says that people still think of demons as powerless consciousnesses. He also says there's another way to render skills useless. The man refuses to lose, while the demon dispels the cold everywhere. The demon explains about heat and temperature, which makes the body move, and his power works in the opposite way, freezing. The demon says the boy won't be able to determine the attack's direction even with skill. Complete freezing is the power of a greater demon. Zaid's body becomes covered in ice, and he desires to drink the liquid his wife called soup. A man asks his wife not to spill the food and says he'll eat it all. Suddenly, he feels warm. The warmth turns out to be the heat of Ryu's fists. The demon is shocked by the guy's technique, and Ryu doesn't care at all that it was the demon's strongest technique. The demon doesn't believe him and calls the guy names, and Ryuya asks the guys to keep an eye on the man. Ryuya has hurt the demon's pride, and he's ready to erase the shame by killing the boy. Ryuya, however, says he's ready to help if anyone needs it. The demon says that he will put all his strength into killing the guy. Ryuya feels a strong cold and understands that people can die from such cold, and he is a human after all. The guy says that he can survive any temperature with the help of the heat of his feelings. In the end, he succeeded. The demon is completely shocked and can't believe his eyes. He thinks he should have used something more powerful. Noam and the spirit think there's no point in this. The girl says she's done helping the locals. The demon is surprised to see the spirit, and she remarks that he is afraid of her. The spirit says that she was just like the demon. The demon says there's no one in the world stronger than the demon lord, to which the spirit replies that Ryu is stronger. The demon refuses to believe it. The guy strikes and cuts the demon down. The demon doesn't understand why instant regeneration doesn't work, and the spirit says that it's the difference between the levels of the guy and the demon. Ryuya says he can kill the demon once and for all or throw him in prison. The demon chooses death, and the spirit considers him a fool. The spirit says she's the master's favorite servant. Ryuya asks why the demons needed Zoids and Ricolis. 1. Ryuya offers the demon mercy if he answers questions. 2. Abinion is surprised by his kindness and says that demons would never do such a thing. 3. Ryuya agrees with her, while the defeated Seniatans lies bleeding. 4. However, he notes that the demons have not yet killed any people and therefore can still let them go. 5. Abinion admires his kindness and says that demons are not worthy of such mercy. 6. She mocks the lying Seniatans and tells him to start thanking her master. 7. Ryuya turns to the other demon and says that he knows he hit someone. 8. But he doesn't want to get his hands dirty just like that, and if the demon swears not to touch anyone, he can leave peacefully. 9. The demon thanks Ryu for her generosity. 10. Abinion says she could use her power on 2,000 demons. 11. To which Ryuya replies that one Seniatans is enough and he has an idea in case he refuses to talk. 12. The demon smirks, doubting his abilities, to which Ryuya tells Abinion to dig into his head. 13. She penetrates Seniatan's head, which is quite painful for him. 14. The demon screams that his head is about to explode. The hero asks if Seniatans wanted to talk. 15. Seniatans says that by using such interrogation methods, Ryu becomes more terrifying than any demon. 16. However, even after such an interrogation, he will not tell anything, and the hero and his companion may feel that his freedom of action has been taken away from him. 17. Ryuya doesn't understand the demon's words, so Abinion explains to him that no matter how strong a person is, a demon cannot ignore his superiority. 18. She laughs when she hears about the demon's free will. 19. Abinion ends his explanation by saying that the demon will obey only one who is higher than him in the hierarchy. 20. She suggests that the demons attacked because of Oceanese, recalling that demons often become mercenaries to carry out revenge. 21. Ryuya remembers that Oceanese forgave them too quickly and assumes that she is to blame for everything, but Abinion says that this is not the case. 22. She noticed that Oceanese was too kind, and if it were her order, she would have ordered not to kill anyone, but the demons wanted to kill everyone after finishing the work. 23. Ryuya comes to the conclusion that the demons wanted to make sure Sodes and Rikalis were dead. 24. Abinion reflects that whoever gave them such an order is above demons but also above vengeful spirits. She realizes that their clients are demonic gods. 25. Demonic gods are one of the 3 types of people above them. 26. Demonic gods are one of the 3 higher categories of beings above people. 27. Demons consider themselves the greatest creatures. They rule the whole world, but they tremble when they meet spirits. 28. Demonic gods treat common demons like errand animals. 29. Abinion asks Seniathans if she is right. He is silent, but it becomes clear that everything is so. 30. Ryuya concludes that the demons carried out the will of others, following the orders of the gods. 31. The pile of seaweed takes advantage of the moment and tries to strike with squelching sounds, but hits the ground with a fist-like sound. 32. She laughs, saying that it was she who killed the targets and completed the task set by the demonic gods. 33. Ryu finished off the demon with 1 blow. 34. He scolds himself for relaxing and not realizing that the pile of seaweed only pretended to run away, but in fact, it wanted to kill Rikolis from the very beginning. He calls out to Noam. 35. She tells him that he is dead and her potions are powerless. 36. Seniatans laughs at the hero, saying that this is the price for his mistake. 37. He says that Ryuya was right. They were hired by the demon gods to kill Rikolis at all costs. 38. Seniatans praises the seaweed pile for its work and says that the demon gods are superior beings to them. 39. He says that they must follow orders even at the cost of their lives, and these are the rules of this world. 40. The demon continues to laugh and asks to be killed so he can ascend to the demonic gods and become a stronger demon. Abinion turns to Ryu and says he knows how he feels. 41. She says she won't tell the demon that reincarnation doesn't exist and can't believe he believes it, but Ryuya feels differently. He feels deceived. 42. Abinion says that he has no reason to be so sad, but Ryuya did not have time to find out anything from him. 43. She says that Rikolis was killed because he knew too much. 44. Rui agrees with her because he really did know too much that was unnecessary. 45. After his death, the opportunity to find out why the demonic gods wanted him dead was lost. 46. Abinion assures that she will solve everything. 47. Rui doesn't understand what she's talking about. Noam starts praising the spirit. 48. Abinion says that there would be no point if she could not help her master, and that Rikali's death was only a small oversight on her part. 49. She says that she has a special technique that can help. 50. Rui and Noam don't understand her. The hero is already furious that Abinion is dragging his feet. The spirit finally says he can extract information from the dead Rikali's head. 51. The soul of Rikali's appears before them. Noam and Rui are surprised. 52. Abinion talks about her technique, that she can create spirits from dead bodies to find out everything that is necessary. 53. Abinion addresses the soul and says that he will be able to rest in peace after he tells everything he knows. 54. She asks where he got Oceanese's child. Everyone stands waiting. The spirit slowly reveals who gave him the child. 55. He finally answers that the child was given to him by Cardinal Agamans from the church. 56. Everyone is shocked by what the spirit said. 57. Ru Gaijin, chief advisor of the Adventurers Guild, says that although it is hard to believe, the dead do not lie. 58. A cardinal is one of the most important in the church. He is second in importance only to the Pope. 59. No one wants to believe that such an influential person could be involved in this matter. 60. It was Agamans who did not want to recognize people without skills and spread this idea among all adventurers. 61. People speculate about who was the cause of all the troubles. 62. They concluded that it was the church that pretended to protect the kingdom, but in fact secretly ruled the world. 63. Abinion suggests considering why the demonic gods wanted to hide this information. Rui guesses that it means only one thing. 64. The church and demonic gods work together. 65. Most people still don't want to believe it. 66. Abinion mocks the demonic gods, saying that they do not change themselves, still trying to get more than they can. 67. She tells Ryu that they are planning something big. 68. The spirit remembers the dragon who recognized the hero. He is called an entity that has risen above the heavens, since his power cannot be reached. 69. Abinion suggests that the demonic gods want to do something that will allow them to become stronger than the vengeful spirits and reach the level of dragons. 70. Rui wonders if it is possible to reach such a level, but his spirit replies that it is impossible. 71. The hero realizes that she is not lying. Meanwhile, Rikali's spirit has already disappeared. 72. Rui doesn't understand why the demon gods have allied themselves with the church. According to Abinion, this doesn't bode well in any case. 73. Be that as it may, the problem was solved, the guild was saved. Siniathans reminded me of himself and asked me to finally kill him. 74. He insists that death awaits him in any case and asks to do it as soon as possible. Ryuya reflects on the mutual cruelty of the races. 75. He understands that a long-standing feud can only end with the destruction of one of the parties. 76. Rui asks to cancel her skill from the demon. 77. Siniathans doesn't understand what the hero is planning, and Rui simply doesn't want to kill him since the battle is already over. 78. Although the demons killed the guild advisor, no one else was harmed, so Ryu sees no point in killing. 79. He offers the demon freedom in exchange for an oath that he will never harm a human again. 80. Siniathans smirks and says that a demon of his rank would never agree to such a thing. 81. He says that even if Ryu lets him go, he will still continue killing, following the orders of the demon gods. The hero is amazed at the demon's honesty. 82. Siniathans says that he wishes to die in the heat of battle, defending his honor. 83. Rui asks to convey to the gods that he will not allow anyone to kill demons for such a reason. 84. The hero says that if the attacks continue, the gods will be in trouble. 85. The demon asks Ryu if he wants to protect demons from their gods. The hero replies that he does. 86. He says that if the demonic gods come again with a new task, he can solve the problem with brute force alone. Abinion adds that her master's enemy is her enemy. 87. The demons will know her wrath if they fight Rui. Saying this, she shows her power by lifting the building debris into the air. 88. Rui asks her to stop. 89. Abinion doesn't understand why he's looking at her like that. Rui remembers that Abinion had never taken sides before. He knew she did it for fun. The hero approaches the demon. 90. He restored Siniathans' regeneration. The demon doesn't understand how this is possible since it didn't work at the molecular level and asks if Ryu has the skill. 91. He replies that he learned this technique from a magazine in the hotel lobby. 92. The adventurers don't understand what kind of magazine this is. 93. The black-haired girl asks not to say anything unnecessary, but Moidal interrupts her, saying that this is an obscene magazine. 94. Ryuya is surprised by how quickly the demon healed his wounds and regained his strength. Seniatans asks if Ryuya still trusts him. 95. He says that the enmity between demons and people has lasted for more than 2,000 years, and bringing them to reconciliation will not be so easy. 96. Seniatans says that he will fulfill the hero's request and hand everything over to the demon lord. 97. But he clarifies that he does this not for the sake of people, but in order to rule over demons. 98. He doesn't know what the future holds, but he hopes for Rui's promise. 99. The demon flies away, but the adventurers aren't sure they can release him, even though they can't do anything about it themselves. Only Ryuya and his spirit can do that. 100. Abinion flies next to the demon and says that he should say something last and grateful. 101. Seniatans turns around and shouts that he is grateful to Ryu for saving him. 102. The attack on the guild ended successfully, with only one person killed. 103. Leslidza brought reinforcements, which means the recovery will be faster than expected. 104. The action moves to the main office of the Adventurers Guild. 105. They are amazed at the size of the hall, which can accommodate all the inhabitants of the town. 106. This number of people will help avoid biased decisions. 107. The Kingdom of Centakillion agreed to assist with any matters related to the attack on the guild. It was decided to continue the interrupted discussion. 108. The man thanks Ryuya and Noam for the work they have done. 109. Bistimario is ashamed that they decided to surrender as soon as they found out that they only wanted to kill one person. 110. Ryuya says that it was the right decision, but unfortunately, casualties could not be avoided. 111. The hero is reassured that it's not his fault. Ricolis brought this fate upon himself and endangered not only the guild but the country as well. 112. The people at the table are discussing Ricolis. From this conversation, Rui understands that they don't care about the dead man. 113. But he also understands that they say this not because of personal offense, but because of an irresponsible attitude towards their actions. 114. The church values people with incredible skills and sends the second-rate ones to the Adventurers Guild. 115. Despite this, the guild avoided the influence of the church. They also opposed the idea that only people with skills were important. 116. They decided so because people without skills made a huge contribution to this world. 117. Bistimario thanks Rui for his work and suggests considering what the church thinks about the incident. 118. She role-plays the church ministers, assuming they will discuss Riccoli's death and the fact that he might have spilled the beans. 119. The girl suggests that they will turn to the help of demonic gods. 120. She also suggests that they could simply destroy the guild and then rebuild a new one so that this new organization would be loyal to the church. 121. Bistimario continues to mock Riccoli's death and finally completes his assumptions. 122. All the adventurers jumped up from their seats, knocking down Ryu, who was standing next to them. They support the girl, confirming that this is how it will be. 123. They continue to be indignant about the church's actions. Noam approaches the fallen Rui. 124. The adventurers speculate about what might happen if the church loses its influence over the guild. Rui suggests finally making a change. 125. Finally, it is decided to unite the guilds under one banner and show the church what they are worth. 126. The entire hall agrees with this decision. 127. Rui is surprised by the unanimous decision. He guesses that it happened because of the death of Ricolis. 128. Bistimario says he understands the crowd's feelings, but an important decision needs to be made about whether or not to give someone without a skill an S-class. 129. She says that Ryu, who protected everyone from demons, is worthy of S rank. 130. The girl calls on the crowd to support the hero. 131. The whole crowd chants his name. 132. Bistimario was tired while performing. Rui is worried about her condition. 133. Exhaling, she congratulated the hero on his promotion and apologized for not being able to thank him even more. 134. Rai and Naim object and say that this concert is enough. Abinion asks for praise for her production as well. 135. Mario praises the hero for his deal with the demon and says that this could be a turning point in history. 136. She calls Rui the hope of this world and asks him to remain the same. 137. The king reasons that if the threat of demonic attack disappears, then the need for the church and its heroes will also disappear. 138. Despite the damage from demon attacks, the church is the more significant threat. 139. He concludes that the existence of Ryu and his power will be a ray of light for the entire world. 140. Ryuya says that he didn't do anything special. Without skill, he can just wave his arms. Anyone can do that. 141. He says that he can help people in trouble. He is praised for such an answer. 142. A person alone is weak, so people tend to unite and achieve common goals together. 143. Noam and Abinion constantly rescued him. Rui concludes that uniting in the face of danger is the greatest human skill. 144. Mario says there's something else they need to discuss. The dog attacks Noam and thanks her for saving everyone. 145. Noam denies it, saying that she's not the hero but Ryuya. Meanwhile, Ryuya asks Mario about the healer squad and she replies that it has arrived and they need to talk about Noam. 146. Mario praises Noam and says that she also deserves an S rank. 147. Everyone agreed with the counselor's decision and approved it without further ado. 148. Ryu and Noam were also thanked for getting rid of the monster that had been terrorizing the area for a long time. 149. They met Lesledza and asked her about the restoration. She replied that they had finished dismantling the roofs. 150. However, her father asked her and Noam to return as soon as possible. 151. Noam is already eager to get to the kingdom of Centakilian. Lesledza delivers her father's letter. 152. He was very happy and wrote his reply in a hurry. Rui imagined the king's joy in his mind. 153. They look at the letter and can't make out anything because of the terrible handwriting. Noam asks what the rush is. Lesledza hesitates before answering. 154. The king wants to announce the wedding of the three of them. 155. Ryuya and Noam are shocked. 156. The action takes place in the kingdom of Centakilian. A servant approaches the king and says that Lesledza's squad has returned. 157. The king says that history will remember this day. 158. Ryuya asks what this light is. Noam answers that it is the king's decree. 159. Noam continues her explanation, saying that this is royal magic, which allows any message to be conveyed to all the inhabitants of the kingdom. 160. Lesledza says she's amazed by Noam's knowledge. Ryuya is shocked that she got it right. 161. Ryuya says that he was just a common vagabond, so he doesn't know what it is, but he has a feeling that he has seen it before. 162. A king appeared in the sky before his decree. He checks the quality of the connection. 163. He introduces himself and asks to meet a detachment of knights at the main gate of the capital. 164. Say that among them there are 2 adventurers who are natives of this kingdom. 165. The king continues speaking, calling them the heroes of Centakilian because they responded to the guild's plea for help and defeated all the attacking demons. 166. He also expresses gratitude to Lesled's squad, which provided considerable support to the guild. Ryuya is shocked by the crowd that greets them. 167. Leonhardt says that Ryuya and Noam have been promoted to S rank. 168. He calls this the greatest event in the last 200 years. Ryuya is unhappy that the king made a mountain out of a molehill. 169. People in the crowd discuss the king's words regarding the attack of demons in S rank. 170. The king turns to his subjects again and says that this is not all the news. 171. He says that the adventurers have accomplished an incredible feat and he wants everyone to know about their existence. 172. People in the crowd admire the arriving adventurers. 173. People discuss Rui's exploits, but many do not believe that he could have accomplished them. 174. A voice came from the side confirming these exploits and people noticed General Fudameya in front of them. 175. He confirms Ryu's extraordinary strength, asks for confirmation from his soldiers, and they also agree with it. 176. Because of the trust placed in the general, the people in Ru became even more delighted. 177. The king continues to talk about how he wants to reward Ryu and says that the hero deserves a proper reward. 178. The crowd agrees with the king's statement and wants to give Ryu an award. 179. Ryuya is amazed by the king and Baistamario's ability to inspire people. 180. The king announces that he has two announcements. 181. He says that in order to reward the honored hero and strengthen their bond, he decided to give him his daughter Lesledze in marriage. 182. The girl is embarrassed. The king continues to praise her as his main pride. 183. The king again decided to stir up the crowd's interest by saying that Lesledze was worthy of this position. 184. People do not understand what exactly the king says she deserves. 185. Finally, the king announced that he had decided to marry his daughter to an S-rank adventurer and make him the next king of Centikillion. 186. The crowd admires the king's decision. 187. Ryuya covered his ears from the crowd's shouts and was surprised by the crowd's reaction because he didn't think they would agree that Lesledze was worthy of the throne. 188. However, people continue to rejoice for the king's daughter and many already consider her their queen. 189. People are happy that she will be the queen because the prince and the second princess will lead the country into chaos. 190. The man recalls that Lesledze's mother was also a knight and she raised her daughter well. Travelers say the lady is better than any princess from their lands. 191. The girl says they're on a diet and Ryuya doesn't understand who was bothering her earlier. The old man says this world isn't rotten yet and he can rest easy, but Ryuya doesn't want to comment. 192. One guy plans to find a job. Ryuya agrees. The crowd continues to cheer for the future queen. 193. Ryuya understands that everyone agrees with the decision. 194. He doesn't understand whether Lesledze was popular or whether the prince and princess were so boring to people. 195. The king also says that he wants to marry off another S-rank adventurer, Noam, to Ryu. 196. Leonhardt says that after the wedding, the girls will become sisters to each other, so Ryuya and Noam will be able to help Lesledze govern the country. 197. People don't believe what's happening and say that this has never happened before. 198. The king wants to declare that he had only one duty as a ruler. 199. Namely, to ensure the security and prosperity of Centikillion. 200. A servant informs the king that silver fireworks are being launched throughout the city, which means that the people are happy with the decision. 201. The king notices that the people have been rejoicing lately, but they are interested in the minister's opinion. The minister assures them that the king's decision is correct. 202. Ninkuro says he understands the reason why he was appointed minister. 203. He recalls the previous king and notes that although he was merciful, people without skills could not rise. The king decides to rest a little before the banquet, and the new minister praises his actions. 204. The king asks you to look after his daughter in the future. 205. During the banquet, Ryuya is very tired. He wonders if he will be able to keep up appearances at future events. 206. A girl from the side says that Ryu looks too sad for a man who just got married. 207. She says that Ryuya might not be suitable as a suitor for Lesledze. 208. Ryuya recognizes this girl. 209. The princess forestalls the hero's words, calling herself the one he was thinking of, and declares that her duel with Lesledze is not yet over. 210. Ryuya doesn't understand what she means since the king has already made his decision. The princess asks the hero if he wants to know what happened to her younger brother. 211. She reports that he was exiled there as a criminal and his offense was very serious. Crimes against one's homeland should be punishable by death, but his father was merciful and reduced him to a commoner, imprisoning him in a castle on the outskirts of the kingdom. 212. The princess sadly says that her brother was stupid. 213. She is sad that he could not curb his ambitions. 214. The princess turned to Rui. She is unhappy that he is simply silent, saying that everything is written on his face. 215. Even though she is a beautiful princess who dresses in the finest clothes and uses the best perfume, she shows absolutely no compassion for anyone. Honest guys should get involved with her. 216. The princess says that Lesledze, like his brother, was not trained to be kings, and says that if he became king, he would run away, unable to withstand the pressure. 217. Rui begins to doubt Lesledze. Suddenly, if she becomes queen, the country will fall into decline. 218. He quickly moves on from these thoughts and concludes that Lesledze is better than this princess. Ryuya suggests that she renounce the throne peacefully. 219. She refuses this and says that she was born to become a queen. 220. But despite the princess's words, he is confident in Lesledze. 221. The girl decided to put pressure on the hero and said that she could make anyone quarrel. 222. Ryuya doesn't understand what kind of soft sensation he's experiencing. 223. The princess proposes to Ryu to marry her, to fall in love with her with both soul and body. 224. Ryuya refuses her offer. 225. She continues to seek his consent, saying that he will be able to touch her soft skin every day. 226. The princess promises him incredible nights together, but Ryuya refuses. 227. He refuses all her proposals and says that he is faithful to Lesledze with both soul and body. 228. The princess is very upset by his refusal. 229. Ryuya says goodbye to her and leaves. The princess calls Ryuya stubborn and threatens him. 230. Despite the refusal, she likes men like Ryuya, but he does not want to be her lover. 231. She tells him that his opinion doesn't decide anything, calls him a commoner, and says that according to his status he should obey her. 232. The princess uses her royal skill. 233. She talks about the skill, saying that no man can resist her charm. 234. Ryuya hears the princess's voice inside his head, and her wishes are transmitted to him. 235. Now Ryuya unquestioningly obeys her orders, the first of which is to reject Lesledze. 236. Lesledze shows Noam his invention that can collect trash from all over the country. 237. Ryuya passes by and slaps the princess. 238. She cries, not understanding why Ryuya didn't fall in love with her. Lesledze and Noam decided to ignore it. 239. Ryuya tells the princess that she is too poorly brought up for her status and needs to be punished. 240. He asks her to think about the consequences of her actions. She asks him to be more gentle, to which Ryuya replies that he is already gentle. 241. He says she has 10 more spanks left. 242. Lesledze decided to intervene and ask what was going on. Ryuya replies that she wanted to seduce him. 243. Lesledze understands that her sister cannot renounce the throne and she may end up like her brother. 244. In response, the elder sister asks to stop lecturing her and says that she is the only one who is worthy of the throne. 245. To this, Lesledze responds that being king is not a right but a duty. The king's job is to protect the country and lead it into a bright future. 246. The eldest princess was deprived of the right to the throne because she did not understand her duties. 247. To which Lesledze's sister replies that her skill cannot be royal since it can only be used in battle. 248. The eldest princess says that her skill is more suitable for the role of king. 249. Rui disagrees with her and doesn't understand how seducing men can help create a better nation, but Lesledze agrees with her. 250. But despite this, it was she who was chosen as queen. 251. Ryuya showed Lesledze what a king should be like. 252. Lesledze is ready to cut down any enemy. Those around her do not understand where she got the sword from. 253. Here, after her blow, a big explosion occurred. 254. This explosion thundered over the entire kingdom. 255. The minister is worried about the king, but Leonhardt just praises the fireworks. 256. Rui uses Abinion to look at Lesledze's stats. 257. Her skill has improved, now depending not on the number of subordinates but on the number of subjects. The larger the country, the stronger her skill. 258. Light from the explosion is visible in Rubrum. 259. People are worried about this light, but they received a message saying it's just fireworks. 260. The man is considered to have been too hasty in exiling his son, although it was still a reasonable decision. 261. The eldest princess realizes that she has lost. 262. She realized that she could never compare to Lesledze. 263. She understands that her younger sister's path is to bring peace to the kingdom. 264. Noam reports that Lesledze has minor wounds. 265. The fact that she didn't die means that her skills have evolved. 266. Noam says that I am much better now, Ryuya just needs to give her the potion sooner. 267. The king confirms Noam's words and says that her skills have evolved, proving that she is worthy of being queen. 268. However, despite her evolution, she still needs help, since after her skill she needs to be given potions to recover. 269. That's why the king wants them to be together. Noam gives Lesledze the medicine. 270. The king scolds Isabella for standing still, unlike Lesledze. 271. He heard their conversation with Ryuya, how she wanted to seduce him, and this proves that she is not worthy of being a queen. 272. The princess agrees with her father. 273. Lesledze is capable of protecting the country, but she and her brother would be of no use. 274. She repents and says that she could have become a cruel ruler. Ryu feels like she has realized all her mistakes. 275. Noam continues to pour potions into Lesledze. 276. Isabella admits her mistake and promises to help Lesledze in any way she can. 277. Ryuya and Leonhardt are shocked by her statements. Her father says she'd better get married. She replies that she's already found a husband. 278. She decided to marry Ryu and will help him as a third wife. 279. She says he's the first person to scold her like that, and it made her feel like a real person. Ryuya is shocked that those spanks changed her so much. 280. The princess continues to pressure Ryu, saying that he has dishonored her and that she will never be able to marry again. 281. Ryuya tries to object to her, but the king is already furious at Isabella's words. 282. He says that even though she is spoiled, she is still his daughter. 283. Leonhardt clung to Ryu and waited for an explanation while he tried unsuccessfully to escape. Lesledze, meanwhile, came to her senses. 284. The next day, Ryuya came to the Adventurers Guild, where Landate immediately began to congratulate him. 285. She asks why the hero came to him, to which he replies that he needs a task to collect herbs or something like that. 286. Landate was about to give him the task, but then she yelled at him that an S rank shouldn't be doing that. She's afraid that if she gives him the task, she'll be inspected, so she asks him to sit down. 287. Ryuya opposes this proposal and says that he wants to collect herbs because no matter what rank an adventurer has, he must serve for the good of society. 288. Landate says he needs to emphasize his uniqueness, but Ryuya doesn't want to change anything about himself. 289. She asked him to marry her. 290. She says that if Ryuya takes her as his wife, people will start talking about him differently because she is the best of the best. The hero disagrees, believing that people will hate him. 291. Ryuya doesn't understand why Landate and Isabella want to become his wives. 292. He's afraid people will start thinking of him as a pervert. After reaching S rank, people of all stripes from aristocrats to adventurers began to gravitate toward him. 293. People came to him for battles. 294. One day a man came who introduced himself as an ambassador. 295. It was the ambassador of the Duchy of Alexandria. Ryuya does not believe it, but the man claims that it is so. 296. He is actually a church minister and they chose Ryu as the church hero. 297. The man is sure that Ryuya was sweating the power of speech. 298. Ryuya says that's not true, he's just not going to trust someone who's already tried to deceive him. 299. The church minister says that this was a lie for the good because the kingdom and the church worsened relations. 300. Ryuya asks what this noble goal is. The man replies that he wants to communicate the intentions of the head of the church. 301. The hero does not want to deal with the church, which is involved in the incidents in Rubrum and the guild headquarters. 302. He sends the minister away and says that he should have introduced himself on behalf of the church from the very beginning. 303. The churchman thought that rank had turned Ryu's head. 304. The servant begins to scold the hero for his pride. 305. He asks if Ryuya wants to gain even more power by becoming the church's hero, but Ryuya still sends him away. 306. Ryuya doesn't understand why the church suddenly became interested in him since he is useless to them. 307. But the minister says that the church highly values him and his skills. 308. Ryuya says that he has no skills because one of the church ministers said so. 309. The cleric says that this can't be and Ryu must have a wonderful skill. 310. The servants conducted an investigation and realized that Ryuya had reached a level beyond the human limit. 311. The servant assumes that his skill is unlimited. 312. Ryuya is confident that his high level is not due to skill but to the blue dragon's recognition. His level is the result of their joint training. 313. The minister says the church is already working on registering his skill. 314. Ryu's new ID card, which is a magical artifact, does not have any skill written on it, and the artifact cannot lie. 315. The servant stands his ground. Ryu definitely has a hidden skill. 316. He says that a person who has climbed to the top of the guild who has subjugated demons cannot be without skill, and the king also recognized him. 317. But Ryu, despite everything, refuses the offer to cooperate with the church. 318. Abinian says there's no need to worry about her as she's become much stronger since their first meeting. The cleric says Ryuya must become a hero of the church, that's his path. 319. The hero says he's helped people before. In response, the priest offers to join the church, promising to fulfill all his wishes. 320. Rai coldly replies that he doubts what was said. The churchman is confused. 321. Rui accuses the church of not serving humanity. He says it's only useful to those with skill. The churchwoman is shocked and indignantly screams at him for even daring to say such a thing. 322. Rai reproaches the priest for seeing his role only as a way to make money. 323. Rai repeats that he is disgusted by the church, which uses people for profit. 324. He continues to press the priest, saying that they are not going to make the world a better place, so they can only become enemies. 325. The priest says that he understands Ryu, that he is very angry because the church has decided to reject him. 326. He realizes that he can't gain Ryu's trust, so he decides to give him gifts. 327. Speech doesn't understand what it is, but for some reason it stinks. 328. The priest says that if Ryu likes these gifts, he might change his mind about the church. 329. Ryuya opens one box and sees a powder inside that is supposed to slow down decomposition. 330. Ryuya notices a human head in the box. 331. They look at the contents with horror. The priest tells them to take a closer look. 332. Ryuya recognizes the head of his friend Liber. 333. The priest had no doubt that he would recognize him. He explains why they decided to kill him. 334. He doesn't understand what crimes the priest is telling him. Why is only his head here? 335. The priest believes that Ryuya was angry with Liber. 336. The church decided to kill him to show good intentions. They stripped Liber of his hero status and executed him. 337. And so that I could be convinced of this, the priest brought him the head as a gift. 338. The priest says that Ryuya can do whatever he wants. He suggests stepping on his head. 339. The priest remembers that there is also a second box which also contains a head. 340. At first, Ryuya does not recognize this man. 341. The priest explains to him that this is the man who performed the ritual of happiness. 342. It turns out that this man was the one responsible for determining Ryu's skill. 343. Rui doesn't understand why he was killed just because he misidentified a skill. 344. The priest cheerfully says that he has shown his good intentions and hopes that Rui will now join the church. 345. Liber lost his skill, but he did not give up the title of hero, so the church decided to eliminate him. 346. The priest invites the hero to perform a ceremony in which he will swear allegiance to the church. 347. The priest says he is willing to forgive Rui for inciting hostility towards the church. 348. Ryu asks if they will do this if he joins the church. The priest starts to answer, but before he can finish, Ryu strikes him. 349. From such a blow he flies far away. 350. Rui is angry and tells the priest to leave before he is killed. 351. Rui remembers Liber, how during the 5 years of separation the skill went to his head, and he stopped considering Rui his equal. 352. He doesn't believe that the church decided to kill him because he was unbearable. 353. Even so, Liber was his dear friend. Rai tells the priest that the church has entered a path of hostility towards him. 354. He will not be able to forgive the very fact of the existence of the church. 355. Rui is going to interfere with all the plans of the church. 356. If possible, he is ready to wipe them off the face of the earth. 357. The next day the priest was captured and the heads of the dead were identified and returned to their families. 358. Rui went for a walk. Noam wants to go with him, but he didn't take her with him. 359. He gave her instructions on how to behave in an emergency and left. 360. Rui hasn't walked alone for a long time. 361. Just when he thought so, Abinian appeared. 362. Rui wanted her to stay with Noam, but she said that she left her mini-clones with her. 363. Abinian says not to worry about her as she has become much stronger since their first meeting. 364. Rui continues to panic, but Abinian calms him down. 365. Rui discusses the skills of himself and his companions. He is physically omnipotent, Abinian is close to a super being, and Noam is truly very talented. 366. He wonders why Abinian didn't use his power on his friend's head. 367. Abinian asks if he wants her to summon his ghost, but Rui quickly stops her. 368. The hero has an idea of where his friend would like to stay, although Liber would hardly like it. 369. Abinian says that he shouldn't worry about his feelings since the dead simply don't have them. 370. And finally they come to the orphanage. 371. Rai says that it was here that he met Liber. 372. While Abinian and Rui are talking, a little guy calls out to them. 373. Rui is frightened by him. Abinian tries to calm him down. 374. The boy's joy is stopped by his sister. 375. Ryuya starts to get to know her, but she recognizes him. 376. Looking at her, she seems familiar to him. 377. Finally, he remembered her name. 378. Ryuya remembers how he and Liber were orphans. 379. They didn't want to live in the shelter any longer, so they took some supplies and left. 380. The boys went their separate ways 5 years ago, but now Rui is going to bury Liber's head. 381. Zeta was a friend from the shelter. 382. They didn't fight for a better life with her, and now she's become a beauty. 383. Rui began to interrogate Zeta about what she was doing in the shelter. 384. A little boy attacks Rui for pestering Zeta. 385. Abinian yells at the children for harming her master. The children run away in fear. 386. Zeta apologizes for the children. 387. Rui remembers that they were the same. 388. The hero didn't think he would meet Zeta here. He concludes that she joined the church. 389. Before the conversation, Zeta suggests that Rui finish what he started. 390. She says that judging by Rui's reaction, he didn't expect to see her here. 391. She is sure that the heroes will not want to listen to her. 392. He says he has nothing against her. He's interested in what she's doing at the shelter. 393. The little guy thinks Rui is hitting on Zeta. 394. Abinian calls his master in S-rank Don Juan and tells the boy not to become one. Rui asks what he said about Liber. 395. Mr. Yavdovich realizes with horror that the box contains Liber's head. 396. People ask if he's seen Liber. He replies that he has no connection to him. 397. Rui asks who this uncle is and they tell him that he is a doctor. 398. Rui and Zeta bury their friend. 399. They discuss how handsome he was. 400. Zeta prays, saying he knew what might be waiting for him at church. 401. However, he could not resist the greatness that the church gave him. 402. This means that she was deceived when she became part of the church. 403. They said that I definitely need to learn how to use my skill. 404. Skills become useless if you don't know how to use them, but Zeta is different from others. 405. Zeta has a dual skill that is ranked B. 406. But even with 2 skills, she can't defeat an A rank. As soon as the church realized this, she was immediately demoted to a lower rank. 407. This left her with a choice between staying in the church or leaving it. From time to time, she worked in the church while doing other work. 408. Of course, this work involved hard work. 409. But sometimes it was necessary to provide special service to guests. 410. Zeta was simply given no other choice. 411. Unworthy people become slaves in the hands of the church. That's why Zeta chose to escape. 412. But even so, the church did not want to let her go. She had to resort to every possible ingenuity to finally escape. 413. She escaped, wading through dirt and shit, and it seems to her that the smell still haunts her. 414. She tried a lot, but nothing stayed with her for long. 415. In the end, Zeta never knew what the world outside the church walls looked like. 416. When she had no choice, she returned to the shelter. 417. The abbess of the orphanage accepted her without question and made Zeta a teacher. 418. Zeta thinks that Rui is very happy because he ended up in Zeta's place. 419. Rui says he is sorry to hear this. 420. Zeta knew Rui would return here. She says the whole world knows about his exploits. 421. She admires the story of a hero who protected the country from demons and achieved S rank in the shortest time. 422. Zeta is glad that Rui got what they dreamed of as children. 423. She says that after receiving the skill, she and the boys began to consider themselves the chosen ones. Noria continued to try his best and became a hero, unlike them. 424. Nothing is known about their third friend. 425. Most likely because of his skill, he was sent to a special academy. 426. Since the church and the academy are connected, life there is likely no better. Zeta congratulates Rui. 427. Congratulates him on his marriage. 428. She praises Rui for his incredibleness. 429. And therefore asks him not to come to the shelter anymore. 430. There is no place for Zeta in Rui's life, so her fate is to tell legends about him. 431. Rui doesn't understand whether he is so disgusting to her. He asks her about her fears. 432. She's afraid the hero is still mad at her. 433. Rui says he will never turn his back on her. 434. He, like no one else, knows that there is nothing special about him and tells Zeta that a person who considers himself better than others will never be able to help his neighbor. Besides, he thinks that she has changed. 435. For this, it became very beautiful not only in soul but also in appearance. 436. He tells her not to think that he considered her bad before. 437. Zeta was touched by Rui's words. Rui thinks that fate is cruel because all 4 children from this orphanage could have met the same fate. 438. Rui remembers how Liber was beaten and they went to the doctor. 439. The doctor didn't want to let them in at first but then changed his mind. 440. Liber enters the doctor's room and claims that he deceived them. 441. The king used his skill to heal all the inhabitants of the kingdom. Liber says that petty doctors have no skills. 442. The doctor asks why he came. Liber throws money on the table. 443. The doctor refuses to take the money, saying it's too much. Liber replies that it's a hush money. The doctor doesn't understand what silence is meant, and Liber explains that he doesn't want rumors to spread that he was treated by a simple, untrained doctor. 444. The doctor says that if Liber is wounded, he should come to him. 445. Before Liber left, the doctor asked who he could help if the king had saved him. 446. Liber justifies himself by saying that he will learn this in church. 447. The doctor tells Liber to come again. 448. Now the doctor regrets Liber's death, looking at his grave. 449. A few days later, Noah joined Ryu. 450. Zeta is angry because she told her not to come, although she admits that she could use some help. 451. Rui learns that Zeta will become the head of the orphanage. She doesn't like being called Mammon. 452. Rui doesn't understand what difference it makes what they call her if the Zeta who wanted fame is no longer there. 453. Zeta asks why the hero spends so much time here. He replies that he just wants to rest. 454. The friend says that there is nothing interesting here, but Ryuya objects. 455. He pays attention to her body, but Zeta says that at this rate his own wives will poison him. 456. Mini-clone Abinion plays with children. 457. Her real part brings Ryu back to the conversation about poison and reports that his wives held a meeting. 458. The problem is that the hero has too much stamina. 459. Noam, on his own wavelength, replies that experiments can be conducted on it. Leslidze says to forget about alchemy. 460. Abinion asks what his stamina level means then. Leslidze replies that they can train. Abinion is dissatisfied with Noam's answers and asks them if they know what men and women do at night. 461. Leslidze is shocked that they're talking about obscenities. Noam says she understands Abinion. 462. Noam created a potion that temporarily increases stats. 463. Leslidze is about to drink 10 potions at once, but the spirit stops her and asks how many mothers there are in her family. 464. Noam says she needs concubines. Leslidze realizes she's been abandoned. 465. Knives prepared the potion as a supplementary tool, but they will be able to reach Rui's level no matter how much they drink. 466. They need concubines for him, but the problem is their number. 467. Noam asks Abinion to help with this. 468. She asks for her specifically because her characteristics are closest to those of Rui. 469. Following the meeting, the wives decided there would be 20 concubines. Zeta suggests abandoning the specific number. 470. But such a limit is needed so that Ryu doesn't cheat and remembers the names of girls, which may include a beautiful girl. 471. Zeta assumes that Abinion is talking about her. 472. But she refuses, saying that she no longer has the right to be with Ryuya and she doesn't want to leave the shelter. 473. She thanks the church for an important lesson. The hero and the spirit sensed something outside. 474. Two large men surrounded the children and Noam. 475. She asks them who they are, but they call her arrogant. 476. Children scream that these men threaten their teacher. 477. The robbers say that Noam can still be re-educated and sold. 478. Ryuya comes running and says that they won't leave here alive. 479. The hero sends them flying. 480. Although he is not omnipotent, he will not allow evil deeds to happen before his eyes. 481. Ryuya broke all the bones of the dealers. 482. Zeta thanks him for preventing them from committing crimes. 483. These men are slave traders, so Ryuya did the right thing by treating them. 484. Noam suggests the children return home. Zeta tells Ryu about the slave traders. 485. The slave trade is prohibited in the country, so they hide behind other activities and sell goods. 486. She talks about skills, so Noam with SSS rank skill wanted to be sold as a slave. 487. Zeta also became their target due to her dual skill. 488. Slavers often lack skills and do not belong to a specific faction. 489. They don't have a guild card that lists all their stats and even crimes. 490. If a person has committed crimes, this is immediately reported to the church. 491. The rest of the countries immediately extradite criminals. Zeta was naive that the slave trade would disappear after the royal ban. 492. For the sake of slaves with rare skills, the church sends other people. 493. Zeta can't believe that just because she has 2 skills, even if they're mediocre, she's being hunted. 494. This alone makes it a rare commodity. 495. Zeta did not come to the soldiers or the guild with this, as she would have been immediately declared a fugitive. 496. She was tired and wanted to scream, but Ryuya came and saved her and the children. 497. Children are often targeted by slaves because at 14 they undergo a ceremony and can learn a valuable skill. 498. Zeta believes that she has no right to ask Rui for anything. 499. However, she asks that the guild take the children under its guardianship. 500. She herself is going to accept the same fate as the bandits, it's just that her time has not come yet. 501. Ryuya didn't understand before how a lack of skill could affect a strong friendship, and he was upset that his friends abandoned him. 502. But now he is not ready to leave his girlfriend. 503. Rui asks Abinion for help. 504. The spirit gladly helps him and calls upon the ghosts of slave traders. 505, Rui does not sympathize with the bandits. 506, despite being just bags, Abinion was able to find out the location of several bases. 507, Rui immediately went to them. 508, he quickly dealt with 2 slave companies. 509, Rui is on his 3rd company cleanup and he has no intention of holding back. 510, Abinion summons the spirits of all slavers. 511, she orders them to tell everything they know. 512, even though Ryuya committed a crime, he will not be punished because he is an S rank and has all the powers. 513, the next base is on a flying island. 514, Rui jumped towards them, breaking through the bottom of the island. 515, the slave traders ask who he is. 516, Rui won't be able to forgive himself if he doesn't deal with crime right now. 517, he doesn't want to feel responsible. 518, therefore he does everything in his power. 519, he reached the kidnapped ones, Noam began to treat them. 520, Rui learned that people with communication skills are appointed as heads of companies. 521, he is not happy with the state of affairs, but Abinion reassures him. 522, since he deals with everyone quickly, no one has time to report anything. 523, they moved on to the next companies. 524, Abinion found out the location of the head of the organization. 525, when they meet, the leader says that he has been waiting for them for a long time. 526, the leader wants to serve them properly since Ryu is the hero of the kingdom. 527, Rui says he wants to resolve the issue as soon as possible. 528, question about his goods. 529, the head is flattered by the hero's interest in his goods. 530, because Rui quickly dealt with the daughter companies, the head is not aware of all the events. 531, Rui is hinting at a product that is banned in this country. 532, the leader says he is an importer, but the hero notes that he is also involved in exports. 533, the leader urges Rui to tell him why he came to him. Rui wants to mention something else. 534, he says he was cleaning up while he was on his way to the head. 535, and right now Rui is looking at his main goal. 536, the head doesn't understand what Rui is getting at. 537, Rai reports that he has freed every prisoner. 538, he noticed that the leader was sweating and accusing him of slave trading. 539, the head assures that these are just empty words. 540, Rui points out that the subordinate heads don't tell him anything. 541, the chief says the accusations are baseless, but Rui says he has proof. 542, the head says he can go to jail himself if the evidence is material. 543, Rui calls Abinion and asks her for help. 544, she summons the ghosts of the people of the head. 545, she asks them to show who their boss is. 546, all ghosts point to the head. 547, the head doesn't believe ghosts, saying they might even lie. 548, he says that there is no truth in their testimony. 549, Rui is going to prove that these ghosts can't lie. 550, the leader is sure that Rui's position has turned his head. 551, he mocks him. 552, the leader decides to show his superiority but dies. 553, Abinion summoned his ghost. 554, the ghost answers all questions honestly. 555, back at the orphanage, Zeta is shocked by how far Rui has gone. 556, she doesn't understand why he went so far for her. 557, Noam praises Rui and says that he doesn't abandon people in trouble. 558, Zeta agrees with Noam. 559, she gives thanks for deliverance from slave traders. 560, Rui learned that the leader was the founder of this business and he sold slaves to other countries. 561, he also realized that the church was collaborating with slave traders. 562, Rai completed his report to the king. 563, the king is shocked by this, the new minister also confirms it. 564, while everyone is getting to know Ninku, the king is perplexed. 565, the king ponders what to do to avoid reprisals. 566, he turns to Rui and asks if he can kill everyone. 567, he says great that he has already killed everyone and presents Zeta as a witness. 568, the king says that taking a nun as a concubine is too much. 569, Rui states that she is not there for this and Ninku confirms her testimony about the slave traders. 570, the king says he can help through his power. 571, this means that Zeta will be able to become an adventurer, which will help her earn money. 572, Rui wants to take the next step. 573, Rai found evidence that slaves were sent to other kingdoms. 574, therefore he wants to get permission to destroy them. 575, the king is hesitant and asks the prime minister for advice, but he suggests discussing it over dinner. 576, he talks about the Republic of Bluebomb, where most of the population is made up of slaves and slave traders. 577, the king governs the country and the Senate, which is elected every few years. 578, on the one hand, they are trying to border the slave trade, on the other hand, it is the largest part of their economy. 579, this is the only country where the slave trade is thriving, so Ryu wants to destroy them. 580, he doesn't understand how they are still thriving. 581, the prime minister explains that this is one of the mysteries of humanity. 582, they work with the church by selling people with powerful skills. 583, Rui is going to destroy Bluebomb. 584, he claims that this is a terrible sin and Bluebomb must be destroyed. 585, he says that the Republic has always been an eyesore. 586, Bluebomb also continues to operate on the territory of the state. 587, the king does not understand how they allow themselves to restrict the freedom of other people. 588, he says that we need to finish off Bluebomb right now. Rui doesn't understand why it wasn't done earlier. 589, the king explains that those who tried died of disease or found themselves at the center of scandals. 590, the king realizes that they can no longer get in the way. 591, to begin with, he wants to demand monetary compensation from them. 592, if they refuse, he will declare war on them. 593, Rai proposes to abandon diplomacy. 594, he argues that negotiations can buy time while they approach the church. 595, he continues that history could repeat itself if they do so. 596, the king asks the minister what he proposes in this case. 597, Rui wants to invade without further ado. The king and his minister are in shock. 598, Noam and Rui want to end this as soon as possible, but the king reminds them that they are still a country and they cannot act without consequences. 599, the king warns that the church may ultimately turn everyone against Centakillion. 600, Rui decided that he needed to first understand the situation and then think about his next steps. 601, the prime minister agrees with Rui but wants to send an army, but the hero says he will go alone. 602, Rui declares that this is a war between slave traders and him. 603, if he goes alone, nothing will harm the kingdom's reputation. 604, the king and the minister discuss that this could harm the hero as a future king, but the enemy still needs to be dealt with. 605, the prime minister says that a legend will be composed about the lone hero and his exploits. 606, Noam wants to go with Rui. 607, Rui hesitates to take her with him. 608, moreover, he didn't want to remind her of the past. 609, Noam thanks Rui for saving her from slave traders. 610, the hero remembers how weak she used to be. 611, he tries to dissuade her but Noam insists. 612, she wants to go with him, she wants to save people just like he does. 613, Abinian agrees with Noam and says that she had better go. 614, the spirit assures that he cannot cope without her and that they will not be able to pass all the tests together with her. 615, the hero agrees with her, he can only hurt his opponents with his fists. 616, Leslidza also really wanted to go with him but she ca. 617, because of her position, she cannot perform such antics. 618, Ryu promises to return. 619, Leslidza says that if something happens to him, she will cry. 620, Rui, Noam and Abinian set out on a new journey. 621, they reach the border between the kingdoms. 622, it is clear that Noam is in poor condition. 623, this happened because Ryuya ran for 5 days holding her in his arms. 624, Noam blames herself because if it weren't for her, the hero would already be in Bluebomb. Ryuya also apologizes to her. 625, she scolds the hero for such words. 626, Abinian says that she is also ready to do anything for Rui. 627, they stayed at a hotel. 628, don't underestimate spies, they could have already found out where the hero went. 629, they decided to stand in one room so that the hero could always protect her. 630, when alone one-on-one, nothing can stop Rui. 631, but he decided to ignore the fact that she was his wife. 632, while they are sleeping, someone comes into their room. 633, a few hours ago, Leslidza taught Zeta self-defense. 634, the future queen shows her maid how to do it. 635, Zeta decides it's better to be kidnapped. 636, meanwhile at the hotel, two guards attack Ryu and Noam. 637, in fact the hero does not sleep. 638, the robbers are going to tie them up and brand them as slaves. 639, Rui doesn't understand how they found out about their roots so quickly. 640, he realizes that he has greatly underestimated the slave traders, even though these guys are fools. 641, the hero throws the robbers out the window. 642, they are surprised that the hero did not sleep. 643, he threatens them so that they don't wake up his girlfriend. 644, first, Rui wants to know how they knew their route and the room they were sleeping in. 645, he also wants to know about their laws of military force and information about the boss. 646, Rui tries to find out from them because he couldn't find out from others. 647, the slave traders pounced on him. 648, they attack him but they can't do a single drop of damage, only ruining his nightshirt. 649, it's sad that they are silent. 650, the slave traders say that this hotel is run by their people, they got a whistle. 651, the hero takes this whistle. 652, he is interested in the purpose of this whistle, the robbers are in shock. 653, they lost all spirit without that whistle. 654, Rui gives it to them. 655, other criminals emerged from all sides. 656, at their head stands their captain. 657, he says that Rui did not outplay them and points to the side. 658, the hero notices beaten people there, the main robber says that the village belongs to them. 659, the bandit captain threatens Rui with the lives of these people. 660, the robbers are sure that the hero has lost his confidence. 661, Rui says he won't defend himself, the slave traders say they will make perfect slaves out of them, but Rui says he is not alone. 662, the robbers don't understand what's happening. 663, Abinian is angry that the robbers harmed the child before her eyes. 664, she killed them all in one fell swoop. 665, all the bandits have disappeared, Ryuya covers the children. 666, Abinian calms the children. 667, Ryuya wonders why she's doing this. 668, she says she only does this so as not to wake Noam. 669, the villagers are finally free from the slave traders. 670, Abinian says that he will immediately summon the spirits of the dead slave traders. 671, children thank the spirit and the hero in shorts. 672, Ryuya apologizes to the villagers. 673, he asks for forgiveness for putting them in danger by stopping near the village, but the elder asks him to raise his head. 674, the elder says that although he doesn't know all the details, he is grateful to him. 675, the elder says that their attack was only a matter of time. 676, Rui understands something. 677, there used to be a large number of villages in the countryside, but they were all destroyed. 678, Ryuya clarifies the villagers' plans. 679, the elder tells him that after the last attack on the village, they did not realize that their village would be the next target. 680, Rui doesn't understand how this can be, since this village is in another country. 681, the elder says that he could not appeal to the adventurers or the king. 682, he says that everyone who tried to fight them lost their ranks. 683, their main strength is the brand of slaves. 684, Rui has already heard about this brand and does not understand how terrible it is. 685, there used to be a knight captain who promised to stop hunting people. 686, this captain was somehow caught. 687, but he returned already branded as a slave. 688, he cut down his comrades left and right, all the other knights fled. 689. The top brass decided to turn a blind eye to all these incidents. 690. The villagers left their places of residence and headed to the capital. They call the hero with them. 691. Rui says that they will separate as he is heading to Blue Bomb. 692. The hero wants to stop the slave traders as soon as possible. 693. He is going to give all the people their homes back. 694. Noam just woke up and asks what happened. 695. The next day they arrived in the Republic of Blue Bomb. 696. Rui is worried that they haven't met anyone yet. 697. First, he wants to find the capital of the Republic. 698. Abinian says that they are not very good travelers. Noam suggests asking the locals. 699. Abinian realizes that this is a bad idea. They notice people in the distance. 700. They approach the place and see how slaves are being sold here. 701. People are actively buying up slaves. There are even promotions going on here. 702. Rue is approached and offered to buy slaves. 703. The slave trader guarantees the quality of his slaves. 704. Kedeman offers to buy them now for free delivery. 705. All the slaves he has are B rank. If he wants better skills, it would be better to go to the capital. 706. Kedeman says that slaves with skills are not sold at a high price because they do not know how to use them. 707. He says if a hero wants to brighten up the night, then skill doesn't matter. 708. The girl he offers to buy him for the night has D-rank skills. 709. If he buys a female slave now, the slave trader will be able to cast a pregnancy spell, and he also offers male slaves. 710. Noam asks Ryu to control herself as they need to find out the location of the capital. 711. A slave collector approaches and praises Noam, whom he took for a slave. 712. He invites the hero to look at his collection. 713. He talks about his slaves and is glad to meet a fellow collector. 714. Ryuya is unhappy that he called him his own. 715. Kedaman praises the two of them for their excellent taste. 716. The slave trader offers the collector to make a new purchase. 717. The collector says that no work of art can be compared to slaves. 718. But the collector says he is going to buy Noam from Rui. 719. He asks the hero if he can sell it. 720. Ryuya is perplexed by this proposal. 721. The collector offers any price for the hero's companion. 722. The collector claims that he can make a real slave out of her. 723. Both the collector and the slave trader want Ryuya to sell Noam. 724. A couple of minutes later, the hero killed all the slave traders. 725. He apologizes to Noam because he had to give out information. 726. His companion forgives the hero. 727. She is glad that the hero decided to protect her. 728. She understands that if information was needed, then it was necessary to go behind the scenes. 729. Ryuya agrees with her. 730. The adventurer turns to the slaves. 731. Ryuya says that they are now free. 732. He believes that he should help them start a new life. 733. But before that, the hero wants to destroy Blue Bomb. 734. But his slaves don't listen, they just go somewhere. 735. The slave trader with his last strength says that it is useless to talk to them. 736. Kedaman said that they accepted the fate of slaves and they do not need freedom. 737. The hero doesn't understand where they are all going. 738. The slave trader says that they realize that they will remain forever. 739. The slave trader says that slaves cannot comprehend Rui's noble deed. 740. The girls surrounded the collector and asked him not to kill him. 741. If a slave truly considers her master a savior. 742. The slave traders laugh at the hero because he does not understand the connection between slave and master. 743. The Ryu slave traders will not allow Ryu to destroy the power of the bonds. 744. The heroes are already beginning to agree with the slave traders' claims, but Abinian asks me to let myself be deceived. 745. The spirit says that some kind of technology was used on the slaves and attacks one of them to prove it. 746. Ryuya says not to attack the slaves, but Abinian says to look more closely. 747. The heroes notice a mark on the girl's back. 748. He understands that this is the mark of slaves. 749. Ryuya is going to drink all the truth from the slave traders. 750. The slave trader denies human rights, but Ryuya says it's not his place to talk about it. 751. The hero threatens the slave trader that he will bury him alive. 752. Abinion says that it is easier to kill me and make me speak in the form of a spirit. 753. Noam says she has an elixir that can make him suffer for 5 years. 754. Ryuya asks the slave trader what this brand of slaves is. 755. He replies that this brand allows him to completely control the branded ones. The hero asks where they are moving. 756. The slave trader replies that if their master is gone, they will go to Blue Bomb to the slave warehouse. 757. The heroes arrived in the capital and they were shocked by what they saw. 758. Ryuya realizes that in fact the slaves did not act of their own free will, they were simply deprived of the ability to think. 759. Abinion suggests erasing the brand. 760. The slave traders say it's impossible. 761. The brand is the main tool in their system and it cannot be destroyed just like that. 762. Rui threatens the slave trader, to which he replies that there really is no way to remove the brand. 763. The slave trader says that they have tested this method and it really doesn't work. 764. Abinion says that nothing is impossible for her. 765. The hero relies on the spirit. 766. Rui says that she is not just a ghost and she can do anything. 767. Rui says she is the hero's comrade. 768. The slave traders did not expect to see a vengeful spirit. 769. The spirit says she can't do anything about this brand. 770. The hero is disappointed in her. The slave traders are happy about it. 771. Abinion says that the problem is that it is a seal, so it can't do anything. 772. If she tries to remove it, the body will be damaged. 773. The spirit suggests completely erasing the body, to which Rui replies that then the person will simply die. 774. Rui is unhappy that he always relied on Abinion and now has to do it on his own. 775. The spirit apologizes to the hero. 776. Noam says she can help. 777. She says her medicines can remove the seal from the body. 778. And in this case, Abinion can remove the seal from the soul. 779. Noam has already made such a medicine. 780. She has already started clearing the seals. 781. The slaves resist this, but the seal is still removed. 782. Noam and Abinion work together and are engaged in erasing the seals. 783. If they work together, nothing can stop them. 784. The collector yells at Ryu for taking his slaves. 785. He says that although they can remove the seal from them, the connection between them cannot be broken. 786. All slave traders shout that the connection is eternal. 787. However, the slaves with the seals removed begin to take revenge on their former masters. 788. The collector says he fed and clothed them, but they say they were simply kidnapped. 789. Former slaves are unhappy with the fact that they were forced to be slaves. 790. The first girl had a wedding planned. 791. The second girl wants to return to her parents. 792. The third girl says that without her, her family will die of hunger. 793. Even though they were dressed, it does not change the fact that their freedom was taken away from them. 794. There was never any connection between slaves and slave traders. 795. Those suffering from the loss of a person did not even know where the missing person had gone. 796. Ryuya calls the slave trade evil simply because it exists. 797. The slave traders fear that their republic is destroyed due to the loss of the seals. 798. This is exactly what Ryuya was trying to achieve. 799. The hero wants to return the kidnapped people to their homes. 800. But former slaves say they can handle it themselves. 801. One of the slaves says that he used to serve in the army, so he can handle everything. 802 Many former warriors have gathered and say that they will be able to protect everyone along the way to the border. 803 Rui realizes that free slaves can handle everything on their own. 804 Beaten slave traders draw attention to themselves. 805 Abinion suggests that they will burn well. 806 Noam says they need to beat the information out of them first. 807 Former slaves beat up slave traders. 808 The heroes arrived in the capital where the Senate sits. 809 For some reason, the slaves could not disobey the order of their master, even though their consciousness and memory remained clear. 810 So if you repair a sword master, he will retain all his skills, but if you repair a statesman, he will reveal all his secrets. 811 Abinion does not believe that this seal was created by people. 812 She thinks spirits are involved. 813 She is unhappy that this seal is beyond her skill. 814 Noam doesn't understand how the effects of this seal can be recreated in potions. 815 Rui tells them to stop, says that the capital is having a bad influence on their behavior. 816 The heroes were interested in the slaves they met along the way, they moved like dolls. 817 Rui believes that everyone they met in this capital are slaves. 818 Abinion proposes to destroy the capital in one blow and turn it into ashes. 819 But Rai says that it is enough to destroy the Senate. 820 The hero says that we need to prepare first and asks Abinion to do this. 821 He also asks that Noam not leave him alone. 822 The heroes are met by a man who says that he was asked to accompany them. 823 Rui says he wants to meet with the Senate. 824 The hero asks if the merchants who lead the Senate want to escape. 825 And the man says that the Senate is waiting for him. 826 Noam notices a brand on the man's neck. 827 She assumes that there are no people in the country without a stigma. 828 Ryu greets the Senate meeting. 829 The hero reproaches them for ruling a country of slave traders. 830 The Senate responds that slaves are a commodity and sees no problem with its actions. 831 Rui is called the merchant's pinnacle of all evil. 832 To which they reply that they are only honest merchants. 833 The merchants compare Ryu to themselves, but the hero says that this is offensive to him. 834 Ryuya intends to ask a couple more questions. 835 One of the merchants introduced himself as the Governor General. 836 He says there is no hierarchy among them, but his voice becomes decisive. 837 He accuses the hero of disgusting manners. 838 Ryuya introduces himself in response. 839 He ends his introduction by saying that he wants to destroy this country. 840 Bruce doesn't understand why he wants to destroy them. 841 To which Rui replies that if they continue to exist, hundreds of people will not be able to live a normal life. 842 The Senate does not understand when they manage to make people unhappy. 843 All the people who made a purchase from them were satisfied. 844 The Governor General says that demand creates supply, so they continue to do their business. 845 The hero replies that business as such is not a problem, but they are ignoring the essence. 846 He doesn't like that their goods are people. 847 What the Senate is doing is abnormal, and the heroes have decided to destroy their country. 848 The Governor General compares slaves to livestock. 849 Ryuya says that his acquaintances can also become slaves, so he has the right to resist. 850 This means that every member of the Senate will die. 851 The Rui are about to have a bloody finale. 852 The Governor General demands compensation for the damage caused. 853 He doesn't like the fact that Rai attacked their merchants and destroyed their goods. 854 Rai realized that he was guilty of putting his own interests above the destruction of slave traders. 855 He decided to wipe them off the face of the earth. 856 The Senate cries out that they have the right to life. 857 The Governor General regrets the hero's words because he believed that they could become friends. 858 The Governor General begins to use his skill. 859 He attacks the protagonist by placing a cursed seal on him. 860 A seal appeared on the hero's face. 861 Noam worries about her husband. The Governor General calls him his property. 862, the Senate is already rejoicing over its victory. 863, the Governor General issues the first assignment. 864, he orders a search of Noam. 865, Rui's eyes became cloudy. 866, however, he was able to overcome the stigma imposed on him, which shocked the Senate. 867, Rui says they won't be able to make him their slave. 868, each member of the Senate begins to use the cursed seal skill to impose it on the hero. 869, they combine their skills into one and direct it at the hero. 870, the skill hits the hero but has no effect. 871, Senate members don't understand why the skill didn't work. 872, even though they cast all the seals at once, Ryuya was not affected by them. 873, the hero himself doesn't understand what's happening. 874, he wonders how so many people have the same skill. 875, although on the other hand, he understands why the slave trade is thriving here. 876, every member of the Senate has the perfect crowd control skill, but it's still unclear why they all have the same skill. 877, the hero wondered how old the Governor General was. 878, Ryuya offers to tell all the secrets and they can die in peace. 879, he is surrounded by a bunch of slaves with knives. 880, Ryuya recalls his achievements, saying that he defeated 5,000 monsters and burned down an entire country. 881, the Governor General orders the slaves to present knives to their throats. 882, Ryuya didn't expect such an outcome. 883, the hero is unhappy that they decided to take advantage of other people's lives. 884, there are 50 people in this room that Ryuya won't be able to save at the same time. 885, they can also put a knife to the throat of every slave in this country. 886, the Senate says that hundreds, if not thousands, could die because of the hero. 887, the Senate turned every slave into a hostage. 888, they want to put a seal on Rui's wife. 889, the Senate is already choosing the location where the seal will be placed on Noam's body. 890, Noam is unhappy with what they say is the master's weak point. 891, she begins to come up with cruel ways to kill so that no one will know what happened here. 892, the Governor General offers Ryu to voluntarily cut the cursed seal on his body. 893, if he does this, then everyone will remain alive. 894, Rui stops their joy. 895, he says that what they don't do is not enough for him to start listening to them. 896, the Senate mocks the hero, saying that he doesn't care about other people because of his own benefit. 897, Ryu is asked to accept his fate. 898, the hero sees another way out besides those offered to him by the Senate. 899, the Senate does not believe that the hero will be able to save all the slaves at once. 900, the Senate insists that the hero will not be able to save all the slaves at once. 901, they assure him that the only way to leave everyone alive is to become their slave. 902, Ryuya agrees that saving everyone at once is too risky. 903, however, Ryuya strikes all the members of the Senate. 904, although he cannot save all 5,000 slaves at once, he can instantly kill 10. 905, Ryuya doesn't understand why dead bodies without heads didn't fall. 906, Noam reports that the cursed seal has still not disappeared. 907, the hero realized that the Senate was a demon that was still alive. 908, he rises laughing. 909, a huge demon appeared in front of Ryu, who said that the heroes are becoming more and more problematic. 910, Mizurak says that he belongs to the Demon King class. 911, his level 999 is the limit of demon evolution. 912, Rui realizes that the church and demons are collaborating. 913, the cursed seal was not a human skill but the power of demons. 914, the demon says that nothing is impossible for him, so controlling more than 5,000 people was very easy. 915, what remains of the bodies of the Senate members returns to the demon. 916, Ryuya realizes that since the demon had the ability to divide, all the members of the Senate were one being. 917, there were no people with one skill, it was just one demon. 918, a person with the skill of subjugation was never born, Mizurak simply used division. 919, the demon has been performing his personal show for several hundred years. 920. Mizuraki praises Rui for getting so close to the truth. 921. The demon claims to be the sole ruler of the Blue Bomb Republic. 922. Rui wants to understand whether he did this by order of the church or by order of the demonic gods. 923. The demon yells at Ryu to shut up. 924. Mentioning demonic gods from a human's lips is considered blasphemy. 925. The demon says that people just need to do nothing and continue living as before. 926. The demon took the slaves hostage again and they began to strangle themselves. 927. Mizuraki says that if the hero wants to save everyone, then he should become his slave. 928. However, Rui understands that if he becomes a slave, it will not save anyone. 929. The hero hopes that this demon will be able to cut off his head with one blow, like last time. 930. But Rui understands that there is no need for this, since Noam and Abinion want to help him. 931. The demon already believes that the hero is ready to sacrifice himself for the sake of the innocent. 932. Mizuraki was hit, but he didn't understand what happened. 933. The curse of the seal would be lifted from all slaves. 934. The demon does not understand how the seals disappeared on their own. 935. Abinion says his demonic technique is not all-powerful. 936. She explains that the demon must have known about the existence of a technique that allows one to instantly move the desired point. One only needs to come up with a technique to stop this. 937. For a spirit like her, it's as easy as pie. 938. Abinion claims that this demon is no match for her. 939. Noam unveiled a new spray that can remove the curse. 940. Abinion absorbed this spray and spread its effects throughout the country. 941. All hostages have been released so you can freely attack the demon. 942. Rui says the demon should admit defeat. 943. The demon screams angrily. 944. He used his stomach area skill. 945. The heroes found themselves in a special area where the demon's skills become stronger. 946. This area reflects Mizuraki's stomach. 947. The demon says that his stomach can digest even steel. 948. Noam presents his new drug that can help them. 949. This drug neutralizes the acidity of gastric juice. 950. However, it didn't work in the demon's stomach. 951. He used a skill that releases teeth all over the stomach, but the hero is not going to give up so easily. 952. Rui fights his way to the exit. 953. It tears the stomach from the inside. 954. The demon doesn't understand why Rui doesn't react to contact with his juice. 955. Rui was too strong to dissolve. 956. The hero doesn't like to kill, but he's ready to kill this demon. 957. Ryu insists that without Mizuraki, the world will become better, so he prepares a massive strike to completely destroy the demon. 958. A massive explosion occurs. 959. Finally, the slave state collapsed. All the former world thanks Rai. 960. The hero is praised for having defeated the entire Senate. 961. People assume that the demon used illusions. 962. The former slave thanks the hero on behalf of all slaves in the nation. 963. He turned out to be the prince of the neighboring kingdom of Savadora. He entered here under the guise of a slave, but he was exposed and sealed. 964. If it weren't for Rui, he would have been bought by an old engineer to participate in forced experiments. 965. The prince wants the hero to help him destroy the entire slave trade, as there are still small traders left. 966. According to the prince, they conduct seminars on the slave trade. 967. The prince says he can quickly deal with the remaining merchants. 968. Rui realized that the consequences were harder to deal with. 969. It was necessary to find out where the slaves came from. 970. They called on Centikillion for help in transporting the former slaves. 971. Food provided by Noam. 972. She obtained water through alchemy. 973. Noam can handle dry soil too. 974. Heroes plant seeds and use fertilizers. 975. The next day the harvest was ready. They have radishes, tomatoes, and much more. 976. It dawned on Rui that with alchemy anything is possible. 977. A few dozen days later, the army of Centakilian arrived to rescue the slaves. 978. Leslidze greets Rui. 979. The hero provided a list of slaves and the places where they needed to be delivered. 980. Leslidze asks where Noam is. Rui points to the garden. 981. Rui apologizes for bringing the king into this, but Leslidze replies that it's no big deal. 982. The queen replies that she is ready to give her full support. 983. A list of the remaining slave traders was found in the documents. 984. Rai says it's worth distancing yourself from the church. 985. Leslidze praises the hero, saying that he is amazing, but he still has something to say. 986. He talks about the cursed seal. 987. Leslidze suggests that there should be no problems after the governor's death. 988. An army of former slaves gradually destroys the remnants of the merchants. 989. According to Abinian, the seals were supposed to disappear after the death of the skill owner. 990. But seals are still found on freed slaves. 991. Rui says there are several ways to preserve the seal even after the skill owner dies. 992. Abinian says that in important places for the church there may be some kind of fuse. 993. Since Noam and Abinian are going to capture the slave traders, there are no problems with destroying the seals. 994. Leslidze says it won't be possible to find the fuse quickly. 995. Information about slave buyers was found in the archives. 996. However, Rai could not find any traces of the church in the archives. 997. Rui and Leslidze say that someone wants to meet them. 998. This is a church member who called himself a bishop. 999. Leslidze screams to be driven away. 1000. The bishop is not going to leave, he wants to congratulate on the victory. 1001. They continue to drive him away. 1002. Leslidze shouts that he has no right to accept congratulations since this is not their war. 1003. Biriask wants to talk peacefully with the princess. 1004. Rai threatens the bishop with death. 1005. People in the field got a huge turnip with the taste of meat. 1006. People praise alchemy for this. 1007. The bishop does not understand Rai's threat. 1008. Biriask says he prays for places like this country to disappear. 1009. Rai continues to drive away the bishop. 1010. Leslidze couldn't stand it any longer and told the bishop to quickly lay everything out. 1011. Biriask says that the church is happy about the destruction of the country of slave owners. 1012. Rui is thinking about how to get him out of here as quickly as possible. 1013. The bishop asks how the transport of slaves is going, and he is told that everything is going well. 1014. Biriask suggests finishing this faster and settling people in temples. 1015. Rui and Leslidze didn't expect to hear this. 1016. The bishop says that the people in the church will have all the blessings. 1017. Rui accuses the church of hunting people with skills. 1018. He says that after the destruction of the supplier, they decided to take all these people for themselves. 1019. Biriask says these are empty accusations. 1020. The bishop speaks about the importance of the church. 1021. He attributes to Rui the sin of accusing the church. 1022. The church brings order to the world, according to Biriask. 1023. Rai says that this country was actively supported by the church, but Biriask says that the church helps those in need. 1024. The bishop laughs at Rai's assertion that the needy are people with skills. 1025. The bishop says that promoting Rui to S rank without a single skill is like a joke. 1026. The bishop says he will ask for an appeal against the decision to promote Rai. 1027. Rai continues to say that the involvement of the church among the slave traders is obvious. 1028. The bishop laughs at this. 1029. Biriask asks to present evidence. 1030. Rai frightens the bishop by saying that he has plenty of evidence from the archives. 1031. In fact, he's lying. 1032. The bishop began to get nervous from these words. 1033. Naturally, the Senate did not trust the church, so it decided to play it safe. 1034. Rui reveals the code to the safe that is full of evidence. 1035. The bishop asks why they didn't immediately announce the safe. 1036. Rui sees that Biriask is confused because only a few people knew about this safe. 1037. The hero says that no one would reveal such a trump card. 1038. The bishop still doesn't believe it. 1039. Rai says that he will not allow the church to wander around the country and tells the bishop to get lost. 1040, the bishop realized that Rai was lying. 1041, but still he leaves. 1042, he asks again about Rai's decision regarding the bishop's departure. 1043, two heroes appear near Biryask. 1044, they are the strongest heroes of the church. 1045, Rai assumes that the bishop wants to turn this into a fight. 1046, but the bishop suggests thinking about the need for help from the church. 1047, at this time the prince whom the hero freed from slavery runs up to Rui and tells him about the trouble. 1048, he says that a large army of demons appeared in the sky. 1049, Rui actually sees demons in the sky. 1050, an army of people thinks about what can be done in this situation. 1051, Rui doesn't understand why the demons are approaching them. 1052, the bishop says that a great disaster is coming. 1053, Biryask asks the hero if he needs the church's help. 1054, Rai thinks the bishop knew this would happen. 1055, the bishop offers divine blessing. 1056, Biryask shows how to ask for a blessing, but at this time the demons strike. 1057, this is the demon queen Gilmir's landing. 1058, the hero realizes that she is on a completely different level of strength. 1059, Rui is thinking about how to defeat her and starts to get nervous. 1060, Abinian tells him to cast away disturbing thoughts. 1061, the spirit says that the hero did not carefully consider the demon's status. 1062, Rui noticed something about him and became embarrassed. 1063, Gilmers addresses Rui specifically. 1064, she calls him handsome. 1065, the demon says she's not here to fight. 1066, she learned this from Seniatans who also flew here. 1067, Seniatans is angry that Riwuya forgot about his promise. Gilmers asks the hero who killed Mizurak. 1068, Riwuya says it was him, to which the demon says no problem. 1069, she says that even in the demon world he was not loved. 1070, the demon says that Riwuya is handsome compared to Mizuraka, but then returns to the topic. 1071, at first Gilmers praises demons, but there are still creatures stronger than her. 1072, for a long time the demons were their slaves. 1073, Gilmers says that Rui is not inferior to demons in strength and that is why she made a decision. 1074, she acknowledges the promise made by Riwuya. 1075, the demons will recognize the hero's strength and will fight by his side. 1076, Gilmers asks Ryu to free the demons from the oppression of the demon gods. 1077, she says that demons have strove to create the existing foundations of the world. 1078, Leslidza clarifies that this is the point of view of demons only. 1079, Gilmers asks to continue speaking. 1080, she doesn't call demons special. Demons are the same creatures that have become victims of stronger ones. 1081, demonic gods rule this world. 1082, they order the demons to attack people. 1083, demons never had anything against people. 1084, Leslidza recalls from history that demons attacked human settlements for the sake of mockery. 1085, Gilmers says this is the people's version. 1086, of course not all demons are ready to live with people, some despise humanity. 1087, but she says that among people there are those who do not hate demons. 1088, people are divided into the strong and the weak. A person without skill can be humiliated just like that. 1089, Gilmers says there is no bad race. 1090, she calls Ryu Lord and says that he must agree with her. 1091, all the demons who came to the hero want to take an oath of allegiance. 1092, Gilmers and the others are ready to do anything. 1093, the people are shocked by the demon's statement. Riwuya asks what they want in return. 1094, Gilmers simply asks to protect them from the demonic gods. 1095, Seniatans assures that they will not attack people. Riwuya accepts their oaths. 1096, there are only 72 demons. If one dies, a new one will be born. 1097, besides Gilmers, there is another demon king who carries out the orders of the demon gods. 1098, but with Gilmers' support, the rest of the demons won't be a problem. 1099, Biryask doesn't want to leave it like that. 1100, the bishop shouts that demons have been enemies for hundreds of years. 1101, an alliance with them will be a betrayal, and the church will declare the allies of demons as enemies. 1102, Biryask continues by saying that Ryu will be stripped of her S-class. 1103, the bishop is in despair. 1104, Ryu asks Abinian and Leslidza for advice. 1105, Gilmers put on the bishop, so she threw it off. 1106, she asks Biryask who his god is. 1107, the demon says that for the sake of this god, he is ready to destroy the alliance between the demons and Ryu. 1108, she asks if she is right that the god of demons and humans are one and the same being. 1109, Rai says that the bishop approached him with some strange request. 1110, Biryask was talking complete nonsense. 1111, the gods have always transmitted orders beneficial to the church. 1112, the bishop says that the church is full of mysteries. 1113, Gilmere says she has a gift for Rui. 1114, she asks him to accept this gift. 1115, Ryu is confused by the contents of the gift and asks for an explanation. 1116, the demon asks if the hero has any questions left. 1117, namely, why didn't the cursed seal disappear after Mizuraka's death? 1118, this gift is the answer to Rui's question. 1119, this magical tool allows seals to remain in place even after death. 1120, he absorbed Gilmere's power to maintain the power of the seals. 1121, Rui asks if this instrument should be broken. 1122, the bishop stops him. 1123, Rui asks what he is so afraid of. 1124, Gilmere says that thanks to the appearance of the bishop, the demons were able to join the force capable of opposing the gods. The instrument slipped away. 1125, Gilmere's was able to catch him thanks to her strength. 1126, she was finally able to destroy him. 1127, powering the instrument took a lot of her energy. 1128, Gilmere's subordinates are glad that their mistress is free from this instrument. 1129, she is tossed in the air with joyful cries. 1130, Gilmere says that the seal that worried the hero has disappeared. This can be considered first aid. 1131, one of the heroes, Morgan, was cursed with a seal, but now he is free. 1132, because the church spoke to him, he runs to kill the bishop. 1133, he is stopped by the second hero of the church. 1134, Rai is amazed that there was a seal on it. Gilmere says that there are many of these in the church. 1135, Rui realizes that the church is now in complete chaos. 1136, Gilmere's and the demons undertake to be faithful hands and feet. 1137, they are ready to do any job. 1138, the heroes were pacified. 1139, Morgan took the bishop with him. 1140, the second hero was tied up. 1141, Gilmere's is curious about how she can help. Abinian doesn't like the demon. 1142, she assures that she will be able to please the spirit. 1143, the demons say they can take up transporting people since they have several who can teleport. 1144, but there are still more than 10,000 slaves, so there is a lot of work. 1145, however, Ryu remains uneasy even after the cursed seal is destroyed. 1146, many slaves have regained free will, meaning they can turn everything into chaos. 1147, anything can happen to both slaves and their masters. 1148, Rui has all the addresses of the slave owners. 1149, house of one of the clients. 1150, a man marvels at Noam's beauty. 1151, she distracts him with a pass and sprays gas in his face. They come to her aid to take the slaves. 1152, the slave trader's second client, she says the delivery is just in time. 1153, a woman is surprised by who came to her because she ordered another man. 1154, thanks to teleportation and S-class licenses, Ryu's team completed the task in 2 weeks. 1155, Abinian said that there was no one in the country. 1156, Rui says that he finally decided to cover his tracks. Gilmere's is amazed by the master's strength. 1157, at first he thought of leaving the remnants of the country as a warning. 1158, but he doubts that anyone would want to use this place. 1159, therefore he makes it so that it reaches everyone. 1160, he deals a devastating blow. 1161, the explosion from the impact spreads further and further. 1162, the blow was so strong that everything turned to dust. 1163, nothing remains of the Blue Bomb Republic. 1164, the demons are shocked that he destroyed the country with a simple blow. 1165, Gilmere's realizes what people are capable of. 1166, now we need to work on changing them. 1167, King Leonhardt addresses Rui. 1168, he and his team listen attentively to the king. 1169, the king says that this time Ryu has outdone himself. 1170, the king is shocked by the demons accompanying the hero. Ryuya introduces him to Gilmere's. 1171, the king is surprised that the hero even made an alliance with demons. 1172, Gilmere's doesn't understand why the human king is so weak. 1173, Ryuya proposes settling the demons away from the capital. The king agrees. 1174, Ruya is at the threshold of the fact that the king did not drive away the demons but accepted them. 1175, the king says that Ryu has made the world move again. 1176, all countries of the world send gratitude for the abolition of the slave trade. 1177, Ryuya notices that the main problem still remains the church. 1178, according to the prime minister, half of the church members rebelled. 1179, the world previously relied too much on the church. 1180, countries united in their desire to help the slaves. 1181, the king says this is their chance to unite and fight back against the church. 1182, he is going to hold a summit. 1183, Ryuya recalls training with a dragon. The dragon's blow even tore apart his clothes. 1184, the dragon says that this level is beyond his capabilities yet. 1185, Ryuya asks about the pattern on his new clothes and the dragon says it's to contain Ryuya's power. 1186, after all, Ryu can destroy a couple of planets. 1187, Ryuya doesn't understand why he remembers this. 1188, he sees changes in his clothes. 1189, she changed completely and the pattern disappeared. 1190, Ryuya says that when he woke up, his clothes were already like this. 1191, his wives speculate on how this could have happened. He asks Abinian's opinion. 1192, she says that the restriction imposed by the dragon has disappeared. 1193, Noam and Lesledze guess that the hero did not fight at full strength. 1194, Rui decides to go out and take a walk in his new clothes since he has some free time. 1195, coming out into the city, he notices insults directed at him on the wall. 1196, he doesn't understand what this means. Noam draws his attention to the magazine. 1197, it contains an article denigrating the hero. 1198, he doesn't understand how it's possible that he just returned from a mission and has already managed to become the main pervert of the country. 1199, Noam is sure it can't be her master since she was with him the whole time. Most likely, someone is trying to slander him. 1200, a man who looks like Ryu looks under a girl's skirt. The real Ryu runs towards him. 1201, the hero tied up the deceiver. 1202, he asks Noam to beat the whole truth out of him and then get rid of him. 1203, while Noam is listing the methods, Ryu hears screams from the side. 1204, he sees another cheater running away without paying for the food. 1205, Ryuya stops this guy too. 1206, they decide with Noam what to do with this deceiver. 1207, Abinian addresses Ryu. 1208, she says that the whole city is cursing her master with all its might. 1209, they come to the conclusion that someone wants to completely denigrate the hero. 1210, Ryuya wants to know from the captured ones what their purpose is. 1211, here again angry shouts are heard towards Rui. 1212, Ryuya decided to catch all the fakes first. 1213, at this time in the palace, people dislike the minister because he lacks skills. 1214, then they started discussing what Ryuya was doing in the city. 1215, the demon appears and addresses the minister. 1216, he was scared to death of her and says that they promised to hide. 1217, the demon changed her appearance and promises not to stand out. 1218, she came to inquire about records of demons, tales, legends, and the like. 1219, the prime minister doesn't understand why she needs such recordings. She says she's stressed. 1220, the demon likes to read in his free time and now wants to study human books about demons. 1221, the minister took her to the library, but he wanted to see the head of the library here, but he did not find him here. 1222, the demon thanked the minister and ran to study the books. 1223, during this time Rui managed to catch quite a lot of fakes. 1224, he asked to beat a confession out of them at any cost. 1225, under the influence of the potion, the deceiver began to say who they came from. 1226, Ryuya is horrified to think that they are from the Dragon King. 1227, fake finishes saying that he is from the audition for Ryu. 1228, Ryuya came to this audition and sees a crowd of fakes here. 1229, Noam understands that they are recruiting counterfeits here and offering to cause trouble for money. 1230, Noam took the clothes from the fakes and decided to chain. 1231, she wants to do this to get in there and find the organizer. 1232, if things get out of control, Noam will give the signal to destroy this place. The presenter announces the start of the exam. 1233, the test asks you to fill in the blanks. 1234, a monster attacks a girl. 1235, Ryuya delivers a straight punch. 1236, the girl thanks the hero and it is suggested to insert his answer. 1237, the girl is against it, then another answer option is inserted into Rui's response. 1238, Rui runs away from her. 1239, Rui doesn't understand what needs to be inserted into these gaps. 1240, he sees that Gnome has reached the point. 1241, she dictates the answer to him, saying that in the first gap he suggests taking off his clothes, and in the second he says that in that case he went. 1242, Ryuya tears up the test in anger. The organizer says he's disqualified, so he'll erase his memory and send him home. 1243, Noam realizes the plan is a failure, so she uses her bombs. 1244, they filled the whole room with smoke. 1245, Noam tells Ryu to do everything without violence. 1246, he agrees with her and decides to create a small disaster. 1247, spinning in place, he creates a small tornado. 1248, Ryuya and Noam emerge from the smoke. 1249, Ryuya is confident that he was able to contain his powers. 1250, he stands in the center of the ruins with Noam. 1251, the organizer of the wiretapping remained a secret, but the counterfeit factory was destroyed. 1252, for Prince Lucerch this is a disaster. 1253, however, he quickly came to terms with it. 1254, the prince asks the cardinal for forgiveness for his sudden departure. 1255, Cardinal Numermans asks if there are any problems. 1256, the prince replies that everything is fine. 1257, this problem will be able to occupy him until the summit. 1258, to achieve his goals, the prince is ready to resort to cruelty. 1259, he assures that the summit will go according to their plan. 1260, the day before the summit, Ryuya examines the hung flag. 1261, Ryuya talks about how tomorrow will be a hard day and suggests that Leslidze go take a nap. 1262, Leslidze replies that Ryu must definitely be at the summit, and she will be quite busy at that time. 1263, she's worried about not knowing how long they won't be able to see each other. 1264, Ryu realized that something was wrong with them because they had been so close lately. 1265, Leslidze offers food. 1266, Ryuya asks to try what Leslidze eats. Ryuya liked it and said Noam grew it. 1267, Isabella interferes with the rest of Rai and Leslidze. 1268, she is happy to see Ryu after a month and promises to take care of him in the evening as his wife. 1269, Leslidze doesn't understand why her sister is called a wife. 1270, she says that Isabella cannot be his wife since she is considered Rai's sister. 1271, Isabella responds that Leslidze will wander to the left. 1272, she claims that her younger sister doesn't like Ryu. 1273, Isabella says she is sure that Leslidze will not be against concubines at Rise. 1274, Leslidze asks to stop portraying her as a villain. 1275, she says that before this role belonged to her, but Isabella says that she has changed. 1276, Ryuya watches the sisters quarrel from the sidelines. 1277, they used to be unable to speak to each other, but now they are more like family. 1278, Isabella says that she will definitely be able to be of use to Rui. 1279, she says that because there have been no heroes in the kingdom for a long time, a lot has happened here. 1280, Isabella whispers in Rui's ear that she wants children from him. 1281, but then he gives the real information that Lucerch is up to something. 1282, Lucerch is the second prince, he is the third child in a row. 1283, Isabella says that Lucerch was the next child in line to the throne after Zemnant. 1284, Leslidze says that this cannot be because he agreed with his father's decision. Isabella insists that she will not become queen. 1285, Isabella recalls why Zemnant was locked in prison and who convinced the hero to participate in the exam. 1286, it was Lucerch. 1287, Isabella thinks that Lucerne knew about everything from the very beginning. 1288, and Zemnant was even more greedy than Isabella. 1289, therefore he asked Ryu to participate in the exam. 1290, Leslidze comes to the conclusion that Lucerch is to blame for the fall of Zemnant. 1291, she says that this cannot be because Zemnant could not fall for such a trick. 1292, Leslidze thinks that Zemnant destroyed himself. Lucerch could not have thought it all through so well. 1293, and if he did think it all through, then he is very dangerous, and he has also been in contact with the church lately. 1294, Isabella remembers Ricolis, who is also acquainted with Lucerch. 1295, the interests of Lucerch and the church coincide. They want to push the king off the throne. 1296 and finally, it was Lucerch who sent the bishop. 1297, he should be busy preparing the army, but he urgently sent a message to someone, most likely for the church. 1298, although they were unable to get rid of the visiting bishop, they were surprised that the second prince was behind all the problems. 1299, you have to be careful at the summit because the prince won't be standing aside. 1300, Ryu realizes that he is a much more dangerous opponent. 1301, the hero wonders where Lucerch is now, but it turns out he hasn't been in the castle for a long time. 1302, Isabella says that she wants to be Rui's support in everything, and this hint was just an example. 1303, she will wait for Ryu to go to bed with her. 1304, on the day of the summit, kings from all countries gathered. 1305, the minister is surprised by the demon's teleportation powers. The king of Rubrum has arrived. 1306, this king greets Ruya and congratulates him on achieving S rank. 1307, the king apologizes for his nephew. The girls say they admire him. 1308, a black-haired girl greets the new minister. She holds a sword to his throat. 1309, she thought he smelled like a demon. 1310, the minister began to worry that there might be reading demons nearby. 1311, Lady Baistimario arrived. 1312, she praises Ryu for her efforts. 1313, Baistimario says that he has made great progress. She thinks that it is thanks to her recommendation. The heroine refuses. 1314, she certainly deserves her future position as the Adventurers Guild chairperson. 1315, she thanks him for dealing with the slave owners. 1316, Baistimario says that he will not face any consequences for this, since even the council recognized this country as a criminal organization. 1317, she says the destruction of this country should be celebrated. 1318, Baistimario promises to intercede for Ryu at the summit and grant him a new title. 1319, the Book of the Hero's achievements will be passed down from generation to generation. Rui is worried that his mistakes are also recorded there. 1320, Baistimario explains that he must be an example for future generations so that his story will be passed down for centuries to come. 1321, she promises that she will definitely write down everything he does for the most accurate history. 1322, Rui assures that he will live correctly, but he is worried about the incident with the fakes. 1323, King Crassi Otto from the Kingdom of Savadura arrived. 1324, he immediately thanks the hero on behalf of the country. 1325, Ryuya doesn't understand who this man is, and the minister suggests that the hero saved his son from slavery. 1326, Ryu remembers this handsome man. The king says that all his wars had a cursed seal imposed on us. 1327, according to King Otto, his son promises to visit Ryuya. 1328, with each passing minute, more and more kings arrived who wanted to greet the hero. 1329, 2 hours later, King Leonhardt thanks everyone present for their arrival. 1330, he introduced himself and declared the summit open. 1331, they asked to omit formal greetings. 1332, they say his hero kept them busy. 1333, Leonhardt agrees with this but says the other kings are grateful to him. The king of Centikilia mentioned some kind of conspiracy and wants to hear the details. 1334, the other kings became interested in this conspiracy. 1335, Leonhardt is asked to get straight to the point. 1336, it is rare that all the powers can gather in one place. 1337, Leonhardt used the destruction of Bluebomb as an excuse to gather. 1338, but in fact the problem is different. 1339, someone appears from the side from which the summit topic was voiced. 1340, this is Cardinal Numermance. He is going to participate in the summit on behalf of the church. 1341, he is sad that the church was not invited to such an important meeting. 1342, Ryuya can't allow himself to act because he doesn't want others to see him as a cruel prince. 1343, the cardinal claims that Lucerne called him. 1344, the prince explains that he is simply concerned about the future of the royal family. 1345, Ryuya wanted to say something but the king stopped him. He turns to his son. 1346, Lusser says he just corrected his mistake. 1347, everyone knew the summit was convened to discuss the church's activities. The church is a thorn in the side of every country. 1348, Numermance thanks those gathered for their concern for the honor of the church. 1349, the king doesn't understand what he's getting at. 1350, the cardinal says that there is confusion in the church and most likely everyone has already heard about it. 1351, kings condemn the actions of the church. 1352, the cardinal doesn't like to hear all this. 1353, he reproaches the kings for having too quickly believed unfounded rumors. 1354, the kings object that this is not a rumor, it is happening all over the world. 1355, the cardinal asks if they know the reason. 1356, when Ryuya returned all the slaves, he informed about the situation. 1357, kings cry about the cursed seal. 1358, the cardinal says the rumors were misleading. 1359, he says there is no evidence of how they bought slaves. There were many witnesses of former slaves going berserk. 1360, the cardinal says that the seal does not exist and there is no evidence that it ever existed. 1361, he creates a new conspiracy theory that the cursed seals are a lie. The church decided to use the summit to cover up its crimes. 1362, and the kings ask who in that case arranged all this. 1363, the cardinal says that this is the one who organized this summit. 1364, Leonhardt says that the cardinal is shifting the blame too obviously. 1365, but the cardinal speaks of an alchemist named Noam, who can create absolutely any poison, such as driving people crazy. 1366, Ryuya is furious that the cardinal accuses Noam. 1367, the cardinal claims that this is not a fabrication. 1368, Leonhardt says that the church, with its number of skills, is much more suspicious. 1369, cardinal presents false evidence about drug created by Noam. 1370, he provides the kings with a list of poisonous materials that Leonhardt's country was purchasing. 1371, Lussersch laughs at the fact that this list is simply fake. 1372, the summit was temporarily suspended. 1373, the king says that all this was built. 1374, he claims that Lussersch was simply playing the role of a traitor. 1375, Leonhardt praises his son for being the one who came up with this plan. 1376, Rui calls Lesledze to ask her opinion about this. 1377, Lussersch says he'll happily play the villain as many times as necessary. Lesledze tells Rui that her brother is a peculiar individual. 1378, the prince declares that he is always happy to communicate with the hero. 1379, Rui asks the prince to explain something. 1380, he asks about the story with the counterfeits. The prince says that he arranged it. 1381, Rui asks about advice to pass the A rank exam. The prince says there was no hidden agenda. 1382, the prince only thought that a D ranker would not be able to become the princess's husband. 1383, he sent the bishop because the king suggested that his son join the church. 1384, the prince had to infiltrate the church. 1385, thanks to this the church's trust in Lussersch grew. 1386, the prince was confident in Rai's strength in any outcome. 1387, thanks to the hero, Lucerne acted without hesitation. 1388, the prince easily gains people's trust. Thanks to this, the connection between slave traders and the church is revealed. 1389, now the church decides nothing, it has lost the trust of the whole world. 1390, Ryuya realizes that Lucerne is the most dangerous of all the king's children. 1391, Isabella herself came up with stories about Lucerne. 1392, although the king wants to marry Isabella, Lucerne has other plans for her. 1393, the prince realizes that it is difficult to trust him now after his actions. 1394, he understands perfectly well that it is difficult to trust someone who was once a traitor. 1395, but even he has ideals that the prince cannot convey. 1396, since the prince has completed all the king's orders, he once again wants to ask the king for something. 1397, Ryuya glares at Lussersch. 1398, the king says he made a promise to the prince. 1399, in exchange for the opening of the church, the king will fulfill the prince's request. 1400, but he is not interested in the role of king, he cannot compare with Lesledze. 1401, he lost all desire after his brother and sister united for the throne. 1402, Lussersch enjoyed the life of a prince, he moved around the world incognito. 1403, the prince met a girl in the city whom he wants to protect. 1404, the king says he has fallen in love with a city girl. 1405, Lussersch praises this girl's care for him. 1406, the king yells at his son for starting to dance. 1407, the prince asks his father for permission to marry a common girl. 1408, the king says that Lucerne just wants to make a fuss. 1409, the prince replies that it is his father's influence. 1410, the king asks his son how he wants to marry her, whether she will agree to become part of the royal family. 1411, the prince says that this is too much of a burden for her, so he is ready to lose his title. 1412, the king says he does not want to make such a talent. 1413, however, the prince retorts that he revealed himself in front of the entire summit and no one will believe him anymore. 1414, now he can leave the palace without regrets. 1415, Lusarsh asks Ryu to take care of her sister. 1416, the prince in all his glory. 1417, he is capable of deceiving anyone, but for him there is nothing more important than love. 1418, the king says that one day his children ran away from the kingdom and Lusarsh was among them. 1419, but he did it for the sake of his beloved. After his business, he immediately returned back. 1420, in those days he was ready to do anything for the country. When he defeated the demon, he immediately returned to his beloved. 1421, even though he is willing to sacrifice himself for the country, this does not make him a worthy king. 1422, for Lusarsh, the most important thing in life is his beloved. 1423, the king can only entrust the throne to Lesleds. 1424, the king says he will still keep an eye on Lusarsh. 1425, after meeting the spirit, the king realized that talent can be found anywhere. 1426, as an example, the king cited the new prime minister. 1427, the king advises Ryu not to let love blind him. 1428, the king tells Ryu to watch him to see how he behaves with Lusarsh. 1429, they went back to the summit. 1430, the kings say it is time to resume the assembly. 1431, the king called the main theme of the summit church action. 1432, he proposes to destroy her. 1433, it was unanimously decided that this was the right decision. 1434, the kings say that the church has always demanded huge donations. 1435, the church has pissed off every king, one's crime rate has increased, and the other's princess with an S-class skill has been taken away. 1436, Rai realizes that everyone is fed up with the church. Queen Decameron also wants to speak out. 1437, she wonders if the church should be completely destroyed. 1438, she's not going to protect the church, but the main threat is demons. 1439, Decameron says that the church helped to cope with them thanks to their heroes. 1440, she proposes to leave the foundation of the church in order to be able to control it. 1441, Rui says that he is against it. We must take advantage of the chance and completely destroy them. 1442, he introduced himself. All the kings recognized him and said that he was too young to be an S-class hero. 1443, Queen Decameron asks what to do with the demons. Then Rui says that he has his own opinion about them. 1444, a demon appears in the hall. Rui wants the kings to listen to her. 1445, the hero introduces Gilmers to the entire summit. 1446, the kings are frightened by the sight of the demon queen and call for the guards. Rui tries to calm them down. 1447, the hero says that some demons swore allegiance to him. The queen did not expect this from demons. 1448, the kings don't believe the demon isn't going to attack people. Gilmers insists that it's pointless for them. 1449, she explains that demons do not kill of their own free will. 1450, she came to the summit to tell the truth that people don't know. 1451, she says that the church must be destroyed. 1452, Gilmers laughs at the humans' behavior when they see the demon queen. Ryu doesn't like her haughty tone. 1453, the demon apologizes for his behavior. 1454, Rui asks her not to insult other people. 1455, he says that Gilmers should learn to communicate with other people. 1456, the kings are delighted with Ryu's skills and the fact that he tamed the demon. 1457, Gilmers asks if people know why demons attack. 1458, the kings say they did it on a whim. 1459, Decameron asks for a detailed explanation of the reason for the attacks in order to solve the problem with words. 1460, Gilmers says the queen is strange, demons made them suffer. 1461, the demons said that they were forced to attack, all the kings are in shock. 1462, Gilmers will understand if they don't believe her, but she says that there is a being higher than the demons. 1463, this creature is a demonic god. He ordered the demons to attack, but they do not take pleasure in it. 1464, the kings do not understand how this is possible and why God needs it. 1465, the Demon Queen says that the demons once asked why they were doing this, but they were immediately killed. 1466, Gilmers decided to explain her guesses using the example of farmers who breed livestock. 1467, God can also simply grow people for his purpose. 1468, Gilmers compares it to a tax to feed the king. Demons eat the weak so that the strong develop. When there are no weak left, the harvest begins. 1469, Leonhardt asks why God needs this. 1470, Gilmers replies that it's most likely due to skills. 1471, Rui and the king don't understand what skills have to do with it. 1472, the demon asks how people get them. Decameron answers that through the church. 1473, she comes to the conclusion that people receive skills from God. The kings now doubt this, as they also doubt the church. 1474, but Gilmers claims it was true. 1475, she says that she was finally convinced of this after talking with Bishop Biriask. 1476, Gilmers says that the demon god and the human god are one being. Leonhardt doesn't understand why all this is necessary. 1477, the Ryu say that demons and humans have the same problem, so there is no point in them fighting. 1478, the kings support this idea and now want to unite together. 1479, someone calls everyone gathered pathetic. 1480, Gilmers recognized this voice and was very scared. He calls everyone in the hall insects. 1481, the voice says that punishment awaits all who go against God. 1482, the voice is called a god. It appears from above from a cluster of light. Its name is Escadura. It makes kings tremble with fear. 1483, God calls himself the world. Rui flew to him. 1484, the hero struck Escadura, causing the god to fall to the ground. 1485, all summit members did not expect such a blow. 1486, God lies on the ground without strength. 1487, Rui tells Gilmers that she can stay here. She is safe now. 1488, the hero wants to prove to her that she made the right choice. 1489, Escadura quickly stood up and was indignant that Rui had hit him. 1490, Rui strikes again and knocks the god into the ground. 1491, Escadura says that the hero angered the god. 1492, God says that Rui will not survive now. 1493, Rui says that even a man can kill a god. The hero is fully prepared for battle. 1494, Rui strikes another blow at God. 1495, in the heat of battle, Rui tries to find out the whole truth about why he ordered the demons to kill and why he passed on skills to people. 1496, the demon doesn't seem to be answering and Rui crushes the demon's head with his foot. 1497, Rui continues to demand an answer to his question. 1498, Escadura doesn't like that man looks down on God. He calls it arrogance. 1499, Rui says that he is far from the arrogance of a god and continues to strike. 1500, the hero says that everyone, including God, is a grain of sand. 1501, the kings watch Ryu's battle and are surprised at how weak the deity is. 1502, God doesn't understand how a human can be so strong. He strikes Ryu with his skill. 1503, God is confident that he killed the hero with one blow, but there was no trace of the god's attack left on Rui. 1504, Escadura does not understand how it is possible that there is no burn, no scratch, even the clothes are intact. 1505, Rui lunges and pierces the god. The god does not understand how damage is done to his astral body. 1506, Rai says that he is the natural enemy of God. 1507, the hero says that God is not omnipotent and that Rui can stop him. 1508, Rui asks again about the transfer of skills to humans and orders for demons. 1509, he wants to know the reason and hopes that Gilmers is wrong. God laughs in response. 1510, he laughs at the fact that Rui hasn't understood anything yet. 1511, Escadura replies that this is natural selection, only the strong should remain. 1512, Rui wonders what happens to the rest. 1513, God continues that the strong are selected to become even stronger. 1514, Escadura says that he gives power so that people can make this power even stronger and return it to God. 1515, God calls people seedlings for his power. 1516, Rui is angered by this arrogance of the god and he strikes another blow. 1517, when fighting demons, skills become stronger and the demon wants to get the strengthened skills back. 1518, Rui realizes that people, through training, strengthen the skills of a god. 1519, but he wonders why go this way. 1520, God replies that he has to use detours because his own strength is already at its limit. 1521, God says that people are insects, capable only of exceeding their limits, unlike demons. 1522, he thanks people for strengthening his skills. 1523, Rui asks why Esketer will be strengthened. 1524, God says that beyond the world there are beings much stronger even for them, God insect. 1525, Eskedura talks about dragons, even he trembles at the mention of them. 1526, Eskedura wants to increase his power to match that of dragons. 1527, he doesn't know how many people or how much time it will take, but he doesn't care. 1528, it dawned on Rui that the demon god could not be left alive. 1529, God says that he told all this because he does not intend to leave anyone alive. 1530, God is going to burn everything to the ground with his skill. 1531, Abinion appeared on the battlefield, surrounding the god with a barrier and preventing him from finishing his attack. 1532, God understands that he is facing a vengeful spirit. 1533, he doesn't believe that she was able to nullify his attack. 1534, Abinion calls this attack a puff and points out the difference between their levels. 1535, God does not like the spirit to interfere with his plans. 1536, Abinion again imprisoned the god in a barrier. He does not stop talking about his status and power. 1537, Eskedura says that everyone must obey him unquestioningly. 1538, Abinion says that everything around is insignificant and dependence on force is meaningless. 1539, people pass on experiences from generation to generation trying to find meaning, but a self-proclaimed god is trying to confuse all the cards. 1540, Abinion tells Ryu that there is no point in killing him here, as his power could destroy the entire area. 1541, Ryuya asks Abinion to lift the chained god higher. 1542, she lifts it high enough, Ryuya prepares to jump. 1543, he rises into the air to strike. 1544, Ekidura calls them fools because they want to kill him. 1545, they want to kill the god who maintains order in this world. 1546, Ryuya replies that they are not killing a god but getting rid of the tumor of this world. 1547, he deals a fatal blow to God. 1548, God realizes that he is about to die, his core is damaged. 1549, Ryuya calls this a reward for God. 1550, God died, causing a giant explosion. 1551, the summit members are happy that Ryu was finally able to win. 1552, Abinion asks what to do with the remaining demons who did not swear allegiance to him because of God. 1553, Ryuya replies that he will try to cooperate with him. If they refuse, he will crush them. 1554, Abinion is delighted with this idea. 1555, she helps Ryu down to the ground. 1556, the summit concluded with the murder of a god and a decision was made to raise an army against the remnants of the demons and the church. The king announced the next move.